No Harry Potter movie is good.
And you're like, give me the Snyder Cut. Oh, sorry, just walk in front of you here. Gonna put my popcorn down. Oh, sorry, gotta put this here.
Universal needs to sue Sony.
Hey, I'm an idiot. I was fired from Fox. Let me go.
I'd like actually to see Venom just crush Spider-Man.
So much fun. Okay, now we're live. We're here.
All right.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a episode of, I guess, the newest redesign for the third time in like 3 months episode of the Comic Boy Show. I'm joined by a very special kind of person subbing in because my co-host is MIA. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Morgan Cobbs. I'm the host of Cobb's Corner podcast, where we talk about all things TV, film, and pop culture. I've got a new, it was a segment that was originally the last segment of the episodes, Current Nerd News. I'm now going to start doing that live on YouTube, Thursday nights at 7 p.m., Current Nerd News, CNN, the real CNN that you should be watching.
Hey, I love that so much.
For my listeners here in the U.S. of A. But yeah, we cover movies, TV shows, the heavy hitters from Marvel, from DC, from Star Wars. We recently talked about the Rocky and Creed movies. I just came from seeing Creed 3 today, and it's easily one of the greatest movies of the year. I'm going to say that now. I know it's only March. It is one of the greatest movies of 2023. Check us out. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, everywhere you get your podcasts. If you want to check out the video form of the Current Nerd News and episodes where I have guests, that will be on YouTube and Spotify. And come by, check us out. And I hope you guys enjoy your stay at Cobb's Corner.
And you definitely should. Like, I could tell you, highly recommend. This man gives you intellectual takes on movies, which here we are known for getting more and more into that kind of fast food movie news because, I don't know. But this man gives you the real intellectual takes. He actually analyzes movies and stuff. So, if you want real deep content, then that's where you should go because it is really great stuff. And I'm so happy you could come on because it's
Pleasure to be here.
now. I don't know if you know how our show typically works. I don't know how many episodes you've seen or anything.
Like one or two. Maybe.
Okay, yeah. So it's okay because we're gonna kind of go through this. It's kind of new too, so I don't really know what's gonna happen here. Well, I do in theory in my brain from last night. So this will be the first trial run. Now, the one thing I do have to say is if you're listening to this on a podcast app, I do recommend you watch this on YouTube because there's gonna be graphics and stuff on the screen. So, for the sake of your entertainment, this is probably one of the only episodes that say I actually prefer you to watch it on YouTube. But you do you, I guess. Anyways, we're going to start with our first segment. Is your camera okay? It kind of vanished.
Oh, yeah, my camera's fine.
Okay. So our first segment, which is a little bit about, it's kind of related to Creed 3.
Okay.
So I don't know if you saw this, but in an interview, Michael B. Jordan said he and, or maybe it was Jonathan Major, I don't remember who actually said in the interview, but they were like, we want to be the next De Niro and Al Pacino. Robert De Niro and Al Pacino.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if did you see that when it kind of came out?
This is actually news to me. But now that you mentioned that, I think there are certain dynamic duos in Hollywood that just kind of, are always remembered as that duo. So, I mean, seeing them as the new De Niro and Pacino, I could see it. That's honestly something I can get behind.
You say that, but
just
you're kind of wrong.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what I mean, okay?
Okay.
So, no, you can't see this because the thing I was trying to do before didn't work. Also, you do know your camera's off, right? I just want to make sure you're aware.
My camera's on.
No, it says it's off.
It's off?
Yeah.
Oh no.
But so I was like, oh, that's a very high bar. That's a good thing to talk about. Can they reach that kind of high bar? De Niro and Pacino together only made 4 movies.
Heat.
Think about that. I don't know if you fell off the call.
Godfather Part 2, I want to say. Irishman.
And then 2 bad movies in between.
Okay.
I don't actually remember the names of the movies, which I probably should have, but you know.
Right. Well, maybe I guess what they were trying to get at is that they're pretty much the new Hollywood duo. I mean, there are duos like, I guess you could say,
The Rock and Kevin Hart.
The Rock and Kevin Hart. But I was gonna say Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost for our listeners across the pond, and then one other example, James Franco and Seth Rogen. It's like, these duos, they've done a ton of movies together. And yeah, some are good, some are bad. Like for John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell, there was Step Brothers, but then they also did Holmes and Watson. For Seth Rogen and James Franco, there was Pineapple Express, This Is the End. But then there's also The Interview. And Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and I think one other movie that I think might have also been directed by Edgar Wright. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I can totally see the two of them like working together and just being, brothers on and off screen.
So I think the biggest question from that though is more because I was shocked, right, about the fact that these two people seem inseparable. Only made 4 movies together, and only 2 of them were even good. And actually, what's even more crazy, which again, people who are watching on YouTube can see this graphic. They only total in all 4 movies they made, they have 1 combined acting Oscar win. Or I think actually might not even a win, might have been a nominate. I know it was a win. It was a win for Godfather 2.
Okay.
But isn't that crazy? Like, you think about these legends, and at least my mind was absolutely blown by the fact they only made 4 movies. And I'm like, is that a hard thing? That must be a very hard thing to do, to make movies together like that, and also them being good. And so, is 4 movies maybe a little bit crazy? Because you think about it, and I looked, the Rotten Tomatoes score for the first movie those 2 made together was 96%, which was Godfather Part 2. The Rotten Tomatoes score for this Creed 3 is 87%. So those are both very high scores. Do you think they're going to end up making these movies where they just kind of want to do something together and they'll just kind of agree to do a bad movie? And do you think that'll kind of be how their kind of partnership ends up kind of continuing? Because I think that's at least my theory, and I'm initially interested to hear what you have to say on this, but it's maybe the studios don't actually want to necessarily hire 2 people together, right? They want to hire 1, and then it's the only time you really have the flexibility to kind of do what you want is in a bad movie, because you get a lot more flexibility when it's a terrible kind of movie if you're just agreeing to do it.
Yeah, I think that I guess it's a classic example of you can't win them all. It's De Niro and Pacino, they only did 4 movies together and only got 1 combined Oscar win. But there's also, I guess, quality over quantity. It's
but they weren't good movies either.
Yeah, I mean, but The Godfather Part 2 is like you said. I mean, that's 97%, which is really generous for Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, I personally consider, at the very least, the first Godfather one of the greatest, if not the greatest film ever made. And Godfather Part 2 is maybe just underneath
it's one of the greatest
the first guy. Yeah, well, definitely one of the greatest sequels. Yeah, Dark Knight.
I always forget that's a sequel. I forget Batman Begins exists. So it feels feels like a part 1. So I mean,
well, I own Batman Begins on DVD, so I can never forget that it exists.
That's very
but
fair. That is a very hard, I mean, it's not a bad movie though. It's just I forget because it doesn't feel like it's the same thing,
Oh, for sure.
I'm actually one of the few people I know who doesn't, dislike Batman Begins that much. I actually think in a lot of ways it's a better movie than The Dark Knight. I think The Dark Knight obviously has the best villain that Batman's ever faced. But I think
R.I.P.
Yeah, I know, legend. But I think that Batman Begins actually has a better story, and I think it's a much more engaging movie. Because like my
That's fair.
rewatch of The Dark Knight is basically just watching Joker highlights on YouTube. Like that's really because that's the best part of the movie, right? Like it's just watching Joker
Right.
do stuff. So I don't know. Would you? Okay, so this is the question I have for you then: is would you rather make 4 movies where some of them are mediocre, or make like one more movie together which is amazing?
I'd rather see them. Well, that's actually an interesting question.
Because you saw the movie, so you know how much you love that duo, and from obviously before we recorded, you're telling me about it. Would you want to see this duo so many more times, even if it means there's a bunch of these bad movies, or would you be like, I want one more excellent movie, and I can live without seeing them together again for the rest of their careers?
I probably end up choosing the former. Maybe like they do multiple movies together going forward, and some are good, some are not so good. It's like I said before, you can't win them all. Some are going to win Oscars, some are not. Some are going to get nominated, some are not going to get nominated. And personally, I feel like that's okay. I think as long as the two of them are, as actors, are being true to themselves, and if they want to continue to work together, and they want to do a ton of movies together, and some are good, some are bad, then I guess that's something that we all, as the fans, would have to live with. But then when you have a duo that just has such great chemistry on set, has such great chemistry in front of the camera and behind the camera, it's like as long as they are on set, having fun, doing what they love, who are we to tell them otherwise?
See, I have a little bit of a different view, which is I think I would actually go with the maybe 1 or 2 more movies of them together, probably at least one kind of later in their careers. The reason for that though is because I think I just feel like there's something like special about like these guys who like work together only a few times and like they're amazing when they do, because it doesn't kind of feel like it's kind of like they can be legends essentially, right? Like they feel like I feel like they feel more like legends because it's unlikely either of them have the careers that Al Pacino and Robert De Niro have had, just because obviously they're two of the greatest actors ever within what they did, right? But I think them just kind of doing their thing and then kind of coming back, maybe honestly for a Creed 4, in a bunch of years, or Creed 5, whatever number they're on at that point, because I'm assuming Creed 3 is not the end of everything. I don't know. You've seen it. I haven't seen it. So it could be the end of everything. But, kind of coming back for that big, like The Irishman, to be honest, that was kind of hyped up as the big kind of, cumulative kind of movie of all 3 of them are coming back, right? I think Joe Pesci was in that movie too, right?
Yeah,
Actually, it's funny.
everybody was
Joe
back.
Pesci did more movies with De Niro than Al Pacino, which is so weird. Like you think that's
Wow.
because he was in The Godfather. He part 1. He was in
Godfather Part 1?
Yeah, he was in part 1.
Oh, wow.
He was in
I
a
didn't know
bunch
that.
of things. I was going through the filmography.
Goodfellas.
Was it Gangs?
Technically, he was in A Bronx Tale
Yes.
with De Niro, but he didn't show up till the very end. You were gonna say something else?
No, I was gonna say I think Leonardo DiCaprio for some reason. No, yeah. But they've done a whole bunch. I think wasn't he in Taxi Driver?
I think he was, maybe.
No, he was not.
No,
He wasn't.
Joe Spinell. Joe Spinell was in Taxi Driver.
Yes.
Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster.
Harvey Keitel, I think, was in Taxi Driver as well.
But I mean, also even Scorsese and De Niro have done more stuff together than but
right.
That's what I think. I think, don't you think them doing an Irishman style kind of thing? Because you remember how much that movie? Have you seen The Irishman?
I haven't sat through the entire movie. I've seen maybe an hour and a half.
Now, were you kind of hyped up? Was that kind of looking back on it, were you excited for that movie based on just all the hype around the return of these guys and doing this big kind of movie together?
Yeah, I guess excited is maybe not really the word I would use. Maybe I was more intrigued because they had so much talent, and it's the fact that you got guys like Pacino and Pesci and Scorsese behind the camera, and all these guys are like still alive and like active and acting even in their old age. Like they're still giving us like the same raw, solid performances that they gave us in movies like Goodfellas, like A Bronx Tale, like Taxi Driver. I also think maybe I know you had said how De Niro and Scorsese have worked together closely. I think maybe, and we've kind of already seen this, Michael B. Jordan, he's been in a lot of Ryan Coogler's films. He's been in, because Ryan Coogler, he's only directed, I think maybe like, off the top of my head, I can probably think of 4 movies he's directed. I know he did Fruitvale Station, which I still have not seen back in 2013. That was Ryan Coogler's very first film, which is based on a true story, and it stars Michael B. Jordan. His second film was Creed in 2015, and then his third film was Black Panther, and Michael B. Jordan was technically in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. So I can see sort of a dynamic relationship between Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler.
In the same
They
way
might
Scorsese
be,
and De Niro.
yeah, they might be the Scorsese and De Niro of today, I think.
Damn, that's some high praise.
Yeah.
Though. I'm not. You will not hear me argue this because I absolutely adore De Niro and Scorsese, and I absolutely adore Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler. But now you know what I need, because like you've kind of now though we do need some Coogler Majors movies. Like I do think we need some of those like on their own because like they have not worked together once. Off the top of my head.
That's true. I don't know. I don't think they work together. Jonathan Majors is kind of a newcomer.
So we do need Ryan Coogler to get some of those movies with Jonathan Majors under his belt, because we need that. I really kind of do wish he directed Creed 3 instead of not because Michael Jordan can't direct, but more just because I would have loved to see that that trio dynamic that you saw with Scorsese, Pacino, and De Niro, and you saw with Pesci, De Niro, and Scorsese, right? Like I would have liked to see kind of them. I mean, I don't know. Again, it's sometimes hard to judge the quality of directing in a movie, so like within the on-screen stuff. So I think it would have just been fun for the storylines, right? To have, or eventually if they have, I think they need to have at least one movie kind of, relatively soon together. If you want to like end up looking at trio the same way we looked at the other trio. Also, they both got to do a ton more movies, including like even if they're not together, but like on their own. Like we need to see some Jonathan Majors in some stupid comedy that you like, that no one needs to watch. Like I don't know if you've seen it, but have you seen Analyze This and Analyze That?
No.
So there's I think De Niro's in those movies. They're so terrible, but they're kind of just stupid movies. And like in and of itself, it's like De Niro's like a therapist. It's really dumb. But like we need stuff like that from them, right? Like on their own. Like I feel like Jonathan Majors hasn't done a ton of like I don't think he's done a bad movie yet.
No. Well, I did see this one movie. I think it was a film from A24. I'm not sure if it was Jonathan Majors' very first film, but it's this movie called The Last Black Man in San Francisco.
Oh.
And it came out in 2019. I think the guy who directed it also starred in it. Jimmy Fails is his name, I think. And that was his directorial and acting debut. It was really kind of an indie film. That film was kind of interesting. It's like I almost felt like I was watching like the show Atlanta, that's really what the movie reminded me of. But yeah, that was the first time I saw Jonathan Majors, and then I saw that he was on the show Lovecraft Country, which I still have not watched. It's been sitting in my list on HBO Max and collecting dust for the last almost 3 years now. 3 years.
Since his cast is Kang, it's been something I had like said, okay, I'm gonna watch it, and I haven't.
Yeah, and then he was right, because there was Lovecraft Country, and then it was announced that he would be playing King the Conqueror, and then he hosted Saturday Night Live, and he said how and just his like whole story of how he was homeless at one point, he went to Yale, and then And now he's playing Kane the Conqueror. He said, or as it will be known in the Black community, not Black Panther.
Yeah.
Which is not incorrect. But yeah, I think we're going to be seeing more and more of him going forward. I think 2023, this will be the year that this will be the year that puts Jonathan Majors on the map. Sort of like how I would say 2018, not 2015, but 2018 was the year of Michael B. Jordan. Like Michael B. Jordan, we saw him first as, and okay, and I'll let you respond, but first we saw him as Killmonger in Black Panther, and then we saw him in Creed 2. And by then he was already kind of like well known. I guess Creed was kind of his breakout film in 2015, but really like 2018 we saw two like heavy hitters of his career. I think, the first Black Panther and Creed 2, two of the highlights of his career so far. And I think 20, 30 years from now, we will always look back on Michael B. Jordan's career, and those two films will always be highlights, just like how for Jonathan Majors' career, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and Creed 3, two highlights, two heavy hitters of his career, and we're not done seeing him in the MCU. We still have Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty. So I mean,
we don't know about Secret Wars yet, but.
Oh yeah, we don't know about Secret Wars, but he's the new big bad of the MCU.
So you said something interesting, which the reason I said I had to disagree with this is because you said, well, his two big kind of movies were Black Panther and Creed 2, right? And obviously he had Fahrenheit 451, which no one watched, but that technically also came out.
I completely forgot about that movie. Completely.
And he also had, so he had technically 3, but I don't think anyone really watched that one. But see, you forgot about one very important movie, which is very fair. Again, I'm not criticizing you for forgetting because most human beings would have forgotten about that movie. You do understand, in 2015, he was Johnny Storm and Adonis in the same year, right? Like he was the Fantastic Four movie, that terrible Fan Four Stick movie came out that year. So
I knew you were gonna bring that up.
Well, you actually knew that was
like,
Did you know that?
Well, no, no. I think as you were responding, it's like, and then you brought up Fan Four Stick, which I mentioned on my podcast how I actually own that movie on DVD, and honestly, I didn't see it in theaters, and I don't know. I mean, that movie, I just couldn't follow it. I just couldn't really get into it. I mean, the acting, in my opinion, the acting wasn't all that great. I mean, I know they had the guy who was in The Offer. He was in The Offer, and he was in Top Gun Maverick. I can see his face. Teller. I can't think of his name. Miles Teller. So like, it had talent, but they hadn't blown up yet. I don't think. And
Mara and John and Michael B. Jordan, right? So,
yeah, and Michael B. Jordan, but like, I don't know. I just feel like they kind of just put him in that role just cause. Yeah, I just don't think that was his role. Right, in my opinion, that just wasn't his role.
I think that was his. Like, I think people instantly knew him after that year. More so, like so like who do you think was the breakout actor or actress of last year?
2022.
I think there's an obvious answer.
It's a tough one. It's like I want to say The Rock, but no.
Jen Ortega.
What? Oh, right, Jen Ortega. Right, good. Wait, she was Wednesday. What else was she in?
She had oh my god, I don't even remember what the movie is called. The X, right, or whatever. Do you remember that horror movie that came out?
The X.
It's called X.
X.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest horror movie person. Like
It was her and Mia Goth, and it was like a whole big thing. I don't. Yeah. So that was the big movie. That was kind of her big breakout movie, and then obviously Wednesday came after, and then actually at the beginning of the year she had a movie which people forget about called The Fallout, which was like technically,
The Fallout, Scream,
yeah.
X, You. I actually do remember her from the show Stuck in the Middle.
Oh my god, I remember that. That was where I like. That's where I like knew. But like most people don't
that's where,
watch Disney shows. So.
yeah. I mean that's where I recognized her only because I've seen like a couple episodes here and there. But I also feel like kid shows aren't lasting as long as they did when I was little. I feel like shows lasted. You got at least a good 5 years out of shows back then. I mean, Stuck in the Middle, 2016 to 2018. I mean, 2 years it's come and gone, and
I mean, Disney Channel shows only did typically 3 seasons, so.
yeah. I also feel like everything's kind of a product nowadays. Like kids aren't learning anything from these shows.
No, there used to be the highbrow Disney Channel shows, and it's gotten so bad. I remember
Boy
those days
Boy
with
Meets
the highbrow
World.
Disney Channel shows, like
Yeah.
I can't remember any off the top of my head for some reason, but there were definitely like
Yeah.
intelligent. But like do you not think that was her? Like, do you think there's someone who broke out more than she did? Because I feel like she became a household name in a lot of ways this year, in a way that she hadn't been before. I think Wednesday was probably the biggest thing, and it wasn't even a movie, which is kind of funny. But like,
Yeah.
like I don't think there's anyone bigger. I guess.
I guess. I guess by that rationale, yeah. 2022 was Jenna Ortega's breakout year. I definitely think that Jonathan Majors might end up being this year's breakout star. I think for 2023. Even if I'm pretty sure these are the only two movies that we're probably going to get from him this year, just Quantumania and Creed 3. But it's just leaving us with so much more to anticipate, and just that longevity of roles like Kang the Conqueror, who we are going to see more of, and without revealing too much from Creed 3, I'm pretty sure there's going to be at least one more sequel, and we might see more of Jonathan Majors' character going forward in the franchise. So yeah, like we might see more recurring roles. I feel like everything's a part of, like, we're in the age of like franchises now. So I think having a role that is a recurring role for a certain actor, where you can kind of fall in love with this character, and then in one movie or in one season of a show, then you don't have to say goodbye to them entirely because there's a second season or there's a sequel in the works, or or in the case of the Avengers, it's like we got 2 Avengers movies on the way. It's like we already know we're going to see Jonathan Majors at least twice more. So
Once. We don't know him in Secret Wars yet.
okay.
Well, Loki,
at least
he's
once.
gonna be in Loki, so I guess.
So yeah, Loki, and on top of that, we had already seen him as He Who Remains 2 years ago. So I think Jonathan Majors is the breakout star for 2023.
I don't disagree with that, by the way, at all.
Yeah.
Like, I absolutely agree with that guy. If there was one person to put money on, it would be obviously him. And I guess, it's hard to judge who the breakout stars. No, we are obviously now just to plug something, which is, we did kind of talk a little bit about breakout stars when we did our fantasy movie draft.
Yeah.
So that's somewhere on the YouTube and whatever. So you should check that out for sure.
It's on your channel.
It is on my channel. And so
Yeah.
that's something where you can see, where we kind of just make our prediction. I'm kind of sad about Ant-Man because that hurts me. We'll talk about the Ant-Man stuff.
Yeah, Creed 3 was one of my picks.
It was, and I think you're probably pretty happy about that, especially because I think the award nominations are inevitable. So you're gonna stack up on some points there. Now, unless you have anything else to say about kind of duos and stuff, I think we're gonna kind of move on to the next topic. Do you have anything else to say?
Oh.
No, you're good.
Do I have anything else? Not really. No.
Cool. So let's move on to the next topic. Now, this next topic is about the next CEO of Disney. I know this is
here we go.
Weird one, okay?
I knew. I was thinking, should I change the shirt? Should I keep it on? Maybe.
Hey, it's good
You know,
chilling. I mean, I'm wearing a flash shirt for the next topic, but
I actually got this at Midtown Comics in Midtown Manhattan. Very famous comic book store. Check it out.
yeah, I'm gonna have to.
Don't know the exact address
You look it
because
up, you'll find it. So
New York. The streets are numbered. You'll find it.
you'll find it. It's pretty
It's, a,
New York's pretty easy
it's
to
impossible.
navigate.
It's impossible to get lost.
Yeah, unlike some cities, Toronto.
Despite what Macaulay Culkin might have told you, okay, it's impossible to get lost in New York. Just follow the numbers.
I mean, kids sometimes can get lost with that because they don't know how to
Yeah.
read. You know, it's difficult. So I don't know if you saw this,
Right.
but there was a rumor that came out like yesterday that NBA Commissioner Adam Silver was on the short list to replace Bob Iger when he retires for real. You know, very Tom Brady style, in 2024 or 2025. I don't know when his contract goes until. Now, this was something that shocked me, and so I was like, "Hey, let's take a look at who could possibly replace Bob Iger as Disney CEO, and who wouldn't do a terrible job, like a certain other Bob who replaced him before he unretired and came back to finish it again, very Tom Brady like." So I'm gonna give you some names. I'm gonna give you a little bit of a description of who they are. Okay.
Okay.
And anyone who's watching is actually gonna see. There's a little bit of I put them in kind of tiers, so you can't see that, but everyone who's watching can, and anyone who's listening can't see it either. So the first one we have is this weird one I found in an article when I was looking at people who could be possibly considered. The Mattel CEO or former Mattel CEO or something, and I don't even know how to pronounce his name, so I'm not going to try. But he's apparently looked at, and I'm like, that feels very strange. You know, that feels like very
Mattel.
random. So I don't know. Do you have any opinions on a former Mattel CEO being potentially the next CEO of Disney?
Former Mattel CEO, which you didn't really say his name.
I can't.
I mean,
Um,
I do know that Mattel. I don't know. I feel like I remember hearing like back in like the 70s, they played their hand at what was still new at the time. The video game industry was still new. We were at like the Atari Pong and like Magnavox Odyssey back
Right.
then. I think Coleco, RCA, Bally, and like Mattel, a bunch of companies, some of which still exist, others that don't, like played their hand in the video game market. And I know Mattel, they make like toys, and I guess maybe he's got knowledge of like merchandising,
so
maybe,
sorry, just so I
and
can
like
give you the description of what he does because I just have them written up. I just couldn't. I was trying to get to it. So he was. He is currently the chairman and CEO of Mattel. He also served as the chairman and CEO of Fox Kids Europe from 1997 to 2002, and was chairman and CEO of television and digital production from a company called Endemol from 2008 to 2011, and worked as chairman, CEO, and president of web video network Maker Studios Inc. from 2012 to 2016. So he does have media experience, a lot of it. He's also sold companies to Disney, and has made deals with Disney in the past. So there is a connection there from his time with the media stuff, and then he's currently, the CEO of Mattel.
yeah, I guess for me, I always kind of have a problem with like whenever you have like separate IP and they're owned by independent companies or independent corporations or whatever you want to call them, and then these companies end up just getting bought out by like bigger competition. And I feel like that was even kind of the not controversy surrounding like the Disney Fox merger, but it's like, are we going to get to the point where where like all IP is controlled by like one of three like major studios or major like corporations? I mean, because even like George Lucas said in the documentary Empire of Dreams, which is on Disney Plus, it's a documentary from 2004. George Lucas said how back in the 70s, his whole thing was when he was creating the first Star Wars movie was he didn't want to do it through big Hollywood and through all these other big corporations and companies and studios that existed, but then he inadvertently by going the independent route, inadvertently created his own corporation of sorts, Lucasfilm, that we all know and love today. Again, the shirt.
And then
Nice little
sold
segue.
it to, and then sold it
Yeah, and then sold it to, and then 11 years ago sold it to Disney. So my only concern is that we're headed down a road where Disney is just going to control everything, where we're just going to sell everything to, there will be no more independent IPs.
So it's funny you
Everything's going to
say
be either, which is actually why I'm glad that like Warner Bros exists, and like New Line Cinema. I know they produce a lot of the DCEU content, and I'm glad at least that Disney's got Marvel. They won't get a hold of Warner Bros. They won't get a hold of DC.
Like it just
Right.
impossible.
Yeah. It's like, all right, that's like the one good thing that came out of 2009. Kevin Feige selling over the then fledgling studio, Marvel Studios, over to Disney. But
Kevin Feige didn't sell it. There was
Kevin Feige did.
They sold it because they
Oh,
owned
Columbia
Marvel, and
Pictures.
then they sold it because they were like, this is a useless property. We can't do anything with it. What are we gonna do with a bunch of these comic book guys?
True.
It turned out you could do a lot with those comic book guys. They're like, we want Spider-Man, and you get rid of. We don't want the rest. Here, Fox, you want X-Men and stuff. Here you go.
Who cares about Iron Man and Thor?
Yeah, those guys. What do we need? Iron Man, Thor, Black Widow, Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, what are these gonna ever do?
Who's this Thanos
we want
person?
Spider-Man, which obviously is how Sony got Spider-Man, and then they're like, hey, Fox, do you guys want these X-Men guys and these Fantastic Four guys? I don't really care about these guys. Here you go, take them. And then, hey,
Right.
Universal, do you guys want these this Hulk and Namor cat? I don't know who this is.
Oh, actually, I'm glad that you brought that up, because now you have to understand, I guess, a bit of context. Back in the early 2000s, there was just Marvel Entertainment Group. There was no Marvel Studios. They outsourced for their movies. And I think in the year 2000, I'm pretty sure they offered Sony like the rights, not just to Spider-Man, but like they offered Sony like the rights to everything. And then Sony ended up settling just for Spider-Man. And they still have a contract with Marvel Studios. They got to release at least one Spider-Man movie in theaters every 5 years. Otherwise, the rights would automatically revert back to Marvel. In 1998, they paid New Line Cinema to make a Blade film, and they, paid 20th Century Fox to make X-Men in the year 2000, which Kevin Feige worked on.
Yeah.
And then, 2003, we got Ang Lee's giant Brock Lesnar Hulk movie, and he looked like a giant Brock Lesnar. Okay,
No
just keep it. Yeah,
like,
yeah, but like, I also heard that there's like a lot of studio politics with that deal, because like,
yes, and I love it so much.
because in 2008, like Marvel Studios, it was still a developing studios at the time that didn't have a single film under its belt. They made a deal with Universal to do a Hulk film in 2008, The Incredible Hulk, which I still consider one of the worst superhero movies ever made. And
Thor: The Dark World was made.
and okay,
I just gotta point it out.
but then I realized I guess the deal that they have with Marvel Studios is Hulk can show up in other projects. Like he can show up, like that's how we've gotten like the Mark Ruffalo as Hulk and like all these other movies, and more recently in She-Hulk. And
So
I watched a video was saying something about how there will never be another live action Hulk movie in the MCU, because Universal holds what's called the right of first refusal,
yes.
whatever that
Can I
means.
explain? I love explaining this so much. Okay.
Right.
I get
Okay. Yeah. I get.
So basically,
I concede.
the way this deal works with Universal, like obviously with Sony, it's very different. But with Universal, the way you can do it is, and they've been threatened by this before. At least the rumors have been they've been threatened with this before, which is why a certain Hulk sequel that they've wanted to make isn't. And also, fun fact, they're actually trying to get the rights back, which we'll talk about right now, I guess, because why not? So basically, what Universal gets to do, if you want to make a Hulk movie, you have to make the damn movie, right? Then you have to show it to Universal, and if they don't like it, you don't get to release it. So if you want to, like, let's say hypothetically, Disney said, we want to make another Hulk movie, right? So you go, you make the movie, then you tell Universal, hey, look, this is the movie we want to put out. Universal's like, nah, we don't like it. Then they're stuck. They made a movie they can't actually release. So
Oh,
basically, the only way you can go around that is basically, okay, you put Hulk in a movie that isn't Hulk related because they do technically have the rights to Hulk, just not Hulk as a movie. Same with Namor. It's the same thing. That's why until they do something about those rights, which it looks like there's some rumors at least they might be willing to do something, and they'll basically Namor could be appear in Black Panther, but we can't get a Namor movie because that's would be a Universal approved movie. So that's basically the way it works. And to kind of jump off of that, they actually think that there was rumors that they're actually trying to sell their Hulu stake, like all of Hulu back to Universal, and basically through various deals try to get those rights back because Universal. So I don't know if you know how Hulu works, like rights wise, but basically Hulu started as like a collaboration between Disney, Warner Bros, and Universal, where they all had like each they had like this equal amount of stake in or they had actually no, it was different amounts of stake in Hulu, right, to keep it alive. And then when Disney acquired, and Fox was the other company, sorry, that was the fourth company that had stakes in Hulu. When Fox was bought by Disney, part of the reason was because Disney then had a majority of Hulu, and which means they had control over it. Then they bought out Warner Bros. Percentage because Warner Bros. Like we're going to do our own streaming service thing. We don't need it. Universal obviously have Peacock, which as far as I'm aware is still functioning. It's not here, so I don't really know if it exists, but apparently it's still functioning.
yeah, just
But they never sold their stake in Hulu because they're like, we like this thing, we'll keep it, why not? And so the rumor is, because now Disney seems to want to offload, at least again, this is all rumors because they want to cut costs, they want to offload Hulu and just kind of do what they do in every other part of the world, which is have Star on Disney Plus, which is like adult content, and not have Hulu for anything because getting people to buy two streaming services is a lot of work. So basically, they're looking to see, or at least there's rumors they're looking to potentially say, hey, Universal, if you give us these rights back along with actual compensation, we'll give you the streaming service. We'll give you full control. You can do whatever you want. Now they've got a few good IPs on that with that service, but for the most part, it's a platform which, if they're not happy with their own streaming thing, it could be something they look at, which will be an interesting one. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that either, but
yeah. I mean, I always see ads for like the Disney bundle, and I guess it all makes sense now because I see like it's like you get Disney Plus, Hulu, and like ESPN Plus for like $12.99 a month or something like that. That's US dollars. Now we don't have ESPN Plus. We don't have the bundle, but I know with my family, I think my mom pays for the Disney Plus account, and then I pay for the Hulu because I get it through because I have Spotify Premium,
right.
and which now, even though I'm still a college student, I have to now pay full price because I'm in my 5th year, and I guess you only pay the student discount is only good for 4 years. So before I was only paying like $4.50 a month. Now I'm paying $10 a month for Spotify Premium and Hulu. I don't even have Showtime anymore. So it was initially like Hulu, Showtime, and Spotify Premium, but we've got Disney Plus, and it is.
They're merging it into Paramount Plus.
What? Why?
Because why? Again, this is the thing that I've been saying at least forever is why would you sell people multiple things when you could just really jack up the price for one thing? Especially in the world of so many streaming things, you really have to jack up the price for the one thing to get people to pay for it.
I mean, I guess, but as of now, I mean, I have the Showtime app on my phone, and it's still functioning now. But I'm sure given another month, it's going to merge with Paramount Plus. I noticed Babylon is on Paramount Plus, but I haven't checked out Paramount Plus like at all, and I understand that. Yeah, and I understand that Paramount, like this is again what I was saying about like corporation control, and Paramount is a subsidiary of Viacom, I think, or vice versa.
Paramount is owned by Viacom.
They're owned by Viacom, right? Right. Yep. Paramount is owned by Viacom, and I know because I think my aunt used to work for back when she lived in New York. She ran ads. She did advertising for mainly Nickelodeon and MTV, which were again owned by I guess Paramount, so Viacom. But yeah, it's like there's all these like steps up the ladder, and it's like, does anyone really own anything anymore?
Well, yeah, someone knows everything. Someone knows everything.
Is what I'm getting at. It's like,
but no, someone knows everything. But the question is, who is that someone? I mean, so it's funny you say we talk about these deals. So the next kind of level up on the tier list of the Disney CEOs is the reject squad. So we went to the outsider squad, which is one guy. Now it's the reject squad. Okay. Now this is the first person in this tier is someone who I've been saying should have been the CEO of Disney since Bob Iger's initial retirement, right? And the reason I say reject was because these two people were rejected from their roles, from the CEO role, and then ended up leaving Disney. Because typically what happens in the corporate world is when you lose, if you're kind of a top tier CEO contender and then you don't get that job, you leave because you feel like you're not going to be because obviously that means they don't believe in you as much as the other guy, and so it's basically like you've maxed out your potential and you kind of go somewhere else to do your own thing. That's typically how it works. So all those kind of top tier CEO contenders end up leaving. So the first guy is Kevin Mayer. Now what he is the guy responsible for the Disney Fox deal. He was like the lead negotiator kind of in that space. He's also the guy who was in charge of the entire Disney Plus rollout, right? He was in charge of the entire strategy behind that. He was basically Disney's go-to strategy guy for everything Disney Plus, everything Fox Disney. So you would think, especially at the time when Bob Iger initially retired or whatever, you would think he would be the guy who the guy who did Disney Plus and did strategy for Disney Fox, the two biggest things that happened. But they went to the amusement park guy because technically amusement parks are a bigger part of the Disney profit model than movies for obvious reasons, because movies don't make any money ever.
Then they've got like a Disney park on like every continent, so
right. Well, but I think the mistake was because how much you can. The problem they didn't realize was you could lose a ton of money if you do the movie stuff wrong, and because that can become a sinkhole so quickly, right? Obviously, Bob Chapek, the previous guy, was behind the whole Scarlett Johansson disaster.
I remember that.
That was one of his marks. Also, he ended up going to Perlmutter to try to save his job. That's desperate, by the way. Going to the racist former Marvel guy. But anyways, Kevin Mayer. So when he left Disney, he became soon after he became the CEO of TikTok. And then he left that. No one knows why. Maybe it's something to do with TikTok not being an actual company and just being a place for the Chinese government to spy. I don't know. That's what people tell me. So
right, I was going to say.
I don't actually know if it's true.
For the Chinese?
I'm just speculating here. And then he went and worked. He stopped somewhere else along the way, and then he ended up at Candle Media with the other guy in the reject squad. So the only way this would happen is Disney would have to technically buy Candle Media, and then he would have to come back, and then you could, because he wouldn't actually leave to come back to be CEO. This is not how it works. So
right.
If Disney's willing to buy a small company for a little bit of money, and if they want to really bring him back, then they could do that. And
wouldn't be the first time that Disney's bought out a competitor. But again, it'd probably be similar to kind of the situation that happened with Steve Jobs, where I think back in like the 80s, he was like fired from the company that he created, because he was apparently he was not the easiest person to work with. Apparently he was kind of a brute, and so he was fired from Apple and then created his company Next, which no longer exists. Right. It was a computer company that he created in the 90s. And then they became, I guess, a rival to Apple at a time when personal computers were kind of still like new on the scene. So then eventually Apple bought out Next. And I'm sure, I don't know if this is 100% true or not, but I'm sure one of the conditions of the buyout was probably that Steve Jobs would be reinstated as CEO. And so my guess, like with what you were saying about this guy was the one behind the Disney Fox merger, but now he's left Disney and he works for someone else. It's like, I'm sure if Disney ends up buying out this smaller
Well, the
company,
only way they would do it is to get one of the next two guys, like one of the two guys on the Reject Squad who both worked for this company as CEO. You don't buy out now.
right?
And just like there is some things you have to give him credit for, which is his new company, Candle Media. They have a deal with Reese Witherspoon for content, so I mean
Oh,
that's pretty cool. Like that's pretty good. Now there's some knocks on him though, which I have to kind of point out. So the what is now iHeartRadio, which used to be like Clearstone or something, Clear something Media. He became CEO. So he was
I
at
remember
Disney
that.
doing kind of the internet stuff, interactive stuff. He left. He went to this Clear Net or Clear, not Clear Net, Clear TV or something. I don't actually remember what it's called. And then it basically like a year after he joined, it completely fell apart and went bankrupt, and then became iHeartRadio like later on. And
Oh,
so he doesn't have a great history. And obviously TikTok, it was a very short stint. We don't know what happened. But I think it's interesting because his time as CEO has never been great in any company because he's been CEO, a few times, and it always seems to just
oof.
end up not great. So I don't know if that was part of it, but that was definitely something which you have to consider because there is always because CEO is very different than being like the guy in charge of strategy. Like it's a little bit more responsibility.
Yeah, I guess he's probably not going to become the new CEO of Disney, just given the fact that, like you said, his track record of him being CEO of like smaller media companies, and it just hasn't turned out that great. So I mean, I hate to judge him solely on his past mistakes, but you also have to take into consideration his role as CEO of other companies, and it just hasn't gone well. Do we really want that guy running probably like the biggest entertainment company in the world? Like,
But he does have the necessary skills to at least manage part of it. Now, there's a reason he's on the second tier, right? Because Disney. I think in general seems to not be interested in buying companies right now because they just did the Fox thing, trying to save money now. So I think I don't. That's why he's on this tier. Now we do have to talk to the other guy quickly, which is Tom Staggs, who fun fact used to be he was the former chairman of Disney, and he works at Candle Media now with Kevin Mayer. But he used to be the former chairman of Disney Parks Experiences and Products, who then who the next chair of that that parks portfolio was?
uh, I want to say Bob Iger,
No, Bob
but
Chapek,
not Bob
the guy who
Chat.
ended up being CEO of Disney. Um, but now,
Oh,
since that point, he was also the chief financial officer of Disney and was the um, COO of Disney, so chief operating officer, right?
hmm.
Um, so he's had two very high profile roles. Obviously, he was also passed up on um, to Bob Chapek, who was in the position of parks and whatever chair of parks. So he also ended up leaving post that, and so it's interesting because he would be another option within that camp. You'd have to buy the company again. Now the other question is if you buy the company, they both probably want to be CEOs. So how do you make that decision, right? Like one of them is going to be angry if
Hmm.
the other one becomes CEO, right? So there's a lot of politics involved in that, which is why they're on the second to bottom tier. Now, technically what should be the
Who's
hmm?
I was gonna say who's on the bottom tier.
The Mattel CEO guy.
Oh,
I just think it's too much of
right.
an outside random thing to really be a possibility because he's the outsider to all this.
True, true.
So next tier, which I think would in reality, if we if this wasn't about Adam Silver, this would be the top tier. But these are the guys within the company um, who are easy promotions, right? Because typically, you want a nice
Hmm.
easy promotion. So you have Josh DeMario, who is currently the guy in charge of the parks, chairman of the parks. You have um, my personal favorite, which is Dana Walden, who actually left when Chapek became CEO, then came back when Bob Iger regained CEO, and now is basically running the entire media part of Disney, like the entire media part of Disney.
Wow.
So basically, her qualification, she was in the Fox deal. She was basically like a mogul of all, like, all those famous Fox shows, everything. She was involved in every single one of them. She ran, honestly, probably the most successful era of Fox TV. So she's been huge. She came in. She was put in charge of Disney TV. She was in charge of like the ABC shows and then some of the early Disney Plus shows. Like in terms of like the creative part, she is very heavily qualified to be the CEO of Disney. She'd also be the first woman to be the CEO of Disney.
Oh, wow.
Because Disney's never had a
Right.
female CEO. She'll be the first, at least in the last few years,
Not surprised.
the first non-bald CEO of Disney. And also the first one not named Bob in the last two, I guess, technically.
First show not named Bob. I mean, either of those picks, I could see it happening. I could see either of them being the new CEO. I mean, they, especially since their background is like they know what it's like to have smaller roles within Disney, so they've definitely kind of cut their teeth on those other leadership roles within the company. So, like you said, they would be easy promotions, ideal promotions. They've worked with Disney before. They know what it's like to be at different levels of management, at different levels of leadership. So, from a business standpoint, I think it just makes sense to hire the two of them, regardless of like you said, regardless of like age, race, or
Gender.
hair amount, gender, that too. Like, just from purely from a business standpoint, like just looking through a business lens, this one makes the most sense.
So now, just to throw in another name who is currently the co-chair of Disney Entertainment, along with her, obviously, is Alan Bergman. So he's basically in charge of the kind of global side of things. She's more in charge of the domestic side of things. He's kind of been around since 2001 in Disney. He's been the CFO. He's done a whole bunch of stuff. He's been deeply involved with Pixar and all that kind of earlier kind of merger stuff.
Okay.
And he would be the other option. I don't think he's he hasn't done as much outside of Disney as Dana Walden, so I don't think he would be as great, just because we don't see it multiple times. Like, you only see it once. So I think that's an interesting one, which I think would be another no-brainer, because again, he's there. But yeah. So now the next person, or the last person on in this tier, is Sean Bailey, and he is at least as far as I'm aware, he is the current president of Walt Disney Studios. So not the company itself, but the studio part of it, which is different, because the studio's technically smaller than the Walt Disney Corporation. And he's been there since 2010. He hasn't done much else, but that's his kind of qualifications. I think he is. Again, I don't think Josh Mario, who's the Parks guys, should be it, because I think we tried the Parks thing. I think we needed someone more in the film and entertainment space, personally. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I think that all those people that you just listed, this tier, they are all most likely to replace Bob Iger. But I also am a firm believer in the philosophy that experience outranks all. So it's going to come down to who has the best, CV or resume or, track record when it comes to running things, like who's had the most success in the company overall, who can take the Walt Disney Company at large forward.
Right.
It's like, sure, you've got one guy who has worked in the studios, the lady who worked on the Fox series, and there's the other guy who worked on the parks. It's like, okay, so you've each handled different portions of the corporation at large, all different gears, all different cogs that have like meshed together to run the machine that is Disney. And make no mistake, it is a machine.
Yes.
Like this corporation, like, it's a machine. You see, a company is like an enormous clock.
All the causes to work together.
Ooh,
And
man.
the other thing about Dana Walden, which I forgot to mention, was she also is known to have like top tier relationships with all of the talent. So like again, when you look back at probably
Sure,
one of the biggest black marks of Bob Chapek's time as CEO, very short time, but time is is obviously the Scarlett Johansson kind of situation and the payment thing, right? And I think
Right.
the one thing she has above everyone else that we mentioned so far, which I think is huge, is she is known like throughout the entire business industry to have connections with like amazing relationships with talent. So I think that is something which you do as although not the primary revenue source, not I think it's the third biggest revenue source because merchandise and parks. But as the third big, even though it's the third biggest thing, it's also the most public thing, right? And that's the thing that hurts the investors, right? Because this is the thing. At the end of the day, a lot of the day-to-day stuff for the merchandise sales don't really affect the investor as much as like Disney doing something stupid with their movie stuff, right? Like I think that's kind of the thing, and I think if you're looking from a PR perspective, I think the person who again is literally not only has worked a ton with the media side, but also has great relationships with talent. I think that's kind of like, at least in my opinion, is the person I want kind of running a studio or like a whole company, but like especially the studio part, which I think most important.
Yeah, I mean, no business, no company is run single-handedly. I think that when you have any business, it could be from a local mom and pop store all the way up to, you know, Disney. You need to know people. Like you need to, some days you got to put your head down and make phone calls and make connections. And with the internet today, it's easier than it was 100 years ago when Walt Disney started the company, when there was no internet, when there was no internet, there were no color TV. I mean, sound wasn't even a thing yet. So like you really had to like not only grind it out, but you were forced to make connections back then in a way that maybe folks aren't like forced to today just by the limitations of technology. And so for her to be someone who has like in today's day and age, like where it's so easy to make connections, but it's also easier to do things on your own. The fact that she's gone out of her way to forge connections with cast and crew and strategically, again, putting her at the top of the machine, allowing her to operate this machine of Disney strategically makes the most sense
Right.
because she's got the most connections, because she knows people. I think the bottom line is,
But remember, Disney would argue, which what they argued with Bob Chapek was like, the parks are still the biggest source of revenue by far. So do you not want someone? And technically, Bob Chapek, like, I mean, this is kind of like a side thing, but like, they also said, oh, he did run the. You remember way back in the day when Disney would have those direct to video stuff, and they would have like the whole Blu-ray thing.
no.
Do you remember the whole or DVD thing? You remember that whole
Yeah,
thing? So
yeah. Well, I definitely remember how big of a thing Blu-ray was like 15 years ago,
right.
2008. I remember how huge that was, and like the direct-to-video. I remember like some stuff. Like
But they
I
made the
know I think
sequels to
Disney
all those
back.
movies, right? Like,
Yeah, like I think they there was a Wrinkle in Time
Wonder Woman.
movie
Or no,
back in
Cinderella.
like the 90s.
Right.
I think that was direct-to-video.
Yeah, there was also the Cinderella sequels and all that stuff.
Oh, right, Cinderella 2, Dreams Come
And
True.
Aladdin 2 and 3.
Why do I know the name of that?
But so those were all handled by him. So they're like, oh, if you do DVD stuff, you can do streaming stuff too. So I think that's another problem is like DVD stuff, and like, as Netflix knows, DVD and streaming not exactly the same.
Not the same at all.
So,
Nope.
but I think the thing is that Disney.
Blockbuster.
I think Disney. Well, exactly, but I think Disney would argue. Disney would argue, hey, do we not want someone who runs the most lucrative part of our business to be in charge? So I think that would be their counter argument to all the great things you just said about Dana Walden and why she's clearly the most qualified person for this. And now I think we do have to give a little bit of mention because the guy at the top in the Sporting for Life tier, because I realized Sporting Life was a thing, and so I had to put the 4 in because, copyright, I guess. I don't know. Is Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, who went to school for political science, ended up working for congressman in Oregon, and then got a law degree, and then became the commissioner of the NBA. So, what do you think about that one?
I mean, I think now I maybe I haven't like paid enough attention to sports, but like the few times that I have seen Adam Silver like kind of handle stuff like whenever, shit would hit the fan, for lack of a better phrase.
COVID mainly.
Yeah, I mean like COVID, but I think he was also he became NBA commissioner I think in 2014,
David Stern
and probably
stuff
one of the
too.
yeah,
He had
yeah,
to
I mean
ban
like
David Stern
he was
from the games because he was a bad person.
oh right. Well I was gonna say, I mean, if you remember like that, I think it was like March or April of 2014 when there was the Donald Sterling controversy, and then he kind
Oh, sorry,
of
Donald
like made an
Sterling, David Stern.
example.
Yeah, Donald Sterling.
Yeah, Donald
David
Sterling,
Stern,
right?
sorry.
There was right there was a
I
Donald
don't know why I mixed
Sterling
them up in my head.
controversy.
You're right.
But yeah, I guess that. But between that and like the way that he handled COVID with suspending the NBA, like really for me, like that's when I realized how big of a deal COVID was. I remember exactly where I was. I was in my kitchen. I was watching CNN, not Current Nerd News. Tune in Thursdays, 7 p.m. It was Chris Cuomo.
Way before he
I was watching.
became a bad person and got fired.
You know what?
Just how long?
This
You
is
know
not
how long ago that feels?
this is not a political science podcast, okay? But yes, we were watching Cuomo primetime, and then like we found out in real time that the NBA season was suspended indefinitely. So that's when we realized how big of a deal COVID-19 was. So,
Yeah.
but then them going to the bubble, and I think he through it all. He was consistent. He like has handled hardship. I really do believe in that phrase, hard times create great men. And I think
Totally,
that
man.
the COVID-19, clearly you're not getting me canceled tonight.
I like you. This is an assist. See, I'm just saying that's what you meant to say. But no one like.
Like I'm using basketball terms. But yeah, I think that maybe he could run Disney, but again, it's like he doesn't have that same experience in entertainment. It's like I feel like with sports, with like live sports, that's different from like streaming services and ESPN. Yes, they are owned by
Yeah.
Disney, and yes, I think wasn't the bubble at Disney World or something
Yeah,
like
it
that.
was in
Like
Orlando.
yeah, it was in
In the
Orlando.
Disney like campus. Yeah, yeah.
Right, in the Disney campus, but like that's a stretch.
Well, so this is the thing, right? I thought that too. Then I thought about it a little more, and I was like, look, he technically deals with talent all the time, just different type of talent, right? Because obviously NBA talent just as diva-ish. Obviously, you see the whole John Morant thing going down right now. Kyrie Irving's existed in the league for how many years?
Oh
Every
yeah.
other day there's a new crazy thing. Like it's not like he hasn't dealt with those kind of things. Obviously, owners being awful people, right? But and you can argue whether or not he handles some of those situations well at all, and some of those he maybe didn't. But like he does deal with talent, right? So it's not like that. And he also understands like kind of that merchandising part of things, and he understands how to present something as a product, right? Because he does like in a weird way, like you think the theme park stuff, like he kind of is qualified to handle that because he's in with the NBA and I mean, again, he doesn't do much in terms of that day-to-day stuff, but generally, like, you look at the bubble as what people constantly say is his kind of pride accomplishment, right? And I think, maybe he can. And now the one knock I have to kind of put on him is, or like the one caveat, I guess, is he wouldn't actually be able to be CEO and chairman to the board because he worked for the NBA, which had connection with the ESPN. He wouldn't actually be able to be the chairman to the board or sit on the board at all. He would more be a figurehead within the CEO role, and then there would be a new chairman of the board, which would not be him because of weird rules around working for a company that has because he also worked with competitors. Or there's some weird rule, and he wouldn't be able to be chairman to the board. So
right.
He would
it'd be a conflict of interest essentially.
Well, so he would have to basically be CEO, but then there would also be someone who technically outranks him. Because that would be the chairman to the board would technically outrank him, So maybe there's a way they could do a co-CEO thing if they really wanted to have him. You really have him for the name. I don't know why you want the name for a CEO. Like besides the initial stock boost, I don't know why that feels like a very pointless thing to do. It's like it's like the stock boost that initially would be great because everyone's gonna love it, but you know, once I don't know, that would feel it does feel a little weird. Also, he's not like a business guy. He's like political science and law, which I mean, hey, if you can become the CEO of Disney when you do political science and you go to law school, I mean, maybe I could become CEO of Disney one day. Who knows? Anyway, so
I mean, I guess he's got a resume, but I'm not entirely sure if that can be translated into the entertainment world. It's like,
Oh no, I agree with
yes,
you.
he's up with talent. He knows how to handle tough situations and that sort of thing, and that's all got its place. I'm not knocking him as a businessman, him as the NBA commissioner, but I just can't see him going over to Disney and being
The other part
a
of
successful
well,
owner.
the other part of this is like why like you if he does retire from the NBA in 2024 when his contract ends, why the hell would you go do
Wow.
Disney, right? Like at that point you're gonna retire as like a
Yeah,
multimillionaire. Just go home. Like don't deal with the hassle, right? Like
honestly.
he's gonna have like insane amounts of money. Like he's never gonna have to work again technically. Like this would like unless like Disney would technically be a passion project for him, right? So it's like, do you really want that as
Right.
the CEO of your company? And why would he want to deal with all that stuff? Like he's leaving the NBA, so just go sit on a beach somewhere and chill, right?
Yeah, I mean, I always say the beautiful thing about retirement is you can literally do whatever you want now, and I always get a kick out of like even with basketball players and like football players, even like more recently with Tom Brady, like what is that second act? What is that third act of
Go
life
make a
going to
Netflix
be?
movie. Go run a
Like
company.
it's like, I mean, I think Tom Brady's going to be like the lead like sports analyst for Fox Sports.
Yeah,
Shaq and Charles Barkley, like they're sports commentators. Michael Jordan owns the
Hornets.
Charlotte Hornets. Larry Bird owns it. Larry Bird he was originally head coach of the Pacers, and now he owns the Pacers franchise. Steve Kerr is head coach of the
Well,
uh,
he's part of the ownership group, I
the
guess.
the, War,
But yeah,
the Warriors, and Phil Jackson's a Hall of Fame coach. It's like, yeah, I mean, once you retire, you can do whatever you want. But to your point, why would you want
to deal with that,
to
like,
go and run
well,
Disney though?
especially because think about it, like, okay, you tell me he can't produce like a series of Netflix movies, like, it feels like anyone who wants to like do something after they retire, like just go produce a bunch of Netflix movies, right? Like Barack Obama, Tom Brady, all doing that. Like, why not? Also, Adam Silver would be another one in the line of the white bald men who run Disney. So that's the reason I pointed out the hair thing. Um, so
Yeah,
you know,
it's definitely a conspiracy.
oh
It's
yeah,
like
for sure.
it's a rule. It's like if you want to run
You
Disney, you
have to be
got to be
white
a
and
bald.
bald.
Have to be white and bald. It's like they just look at your resume and it's like, okay, yeah, you got a pretty impressive
But
resume,
do you have
but
hair?
but do you have hair and are you white?
Yeah. And unfortunately,
You're
Disney doesn't
hired.
have a lot of like the reason there's not a single person of color on this list is because unfortunately, there are not many options that you could choose from, which are people of color. And there's only
Damn it,
one
damn it,
woman
damn
on this list
it.
because again, unfortunately, there's only two women in executive positions right now at Disney. So like in high
True,
executive
true.
positions. So now on to the next our last topic, kind of before we talk about movies at box office. This is a
Oof.
relatively quick one. Out of sight, out of mind. Now, what is out of sight, out of mind? So when you watch a movie, sometimes there's a little bit of some stuff going on behind, like off the screen, and sometimes that really hurts movies. Sometimes it doesn't hurt them at all. So I on the screen obviously you can't see it, but anyone watching this on YouTube can. I have three movies which are Justice League, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and Death on the Nile. And then on the other side of the screen, I have Aquaman, The Flash, and Shazam. Now, Justice League, we all know what went on behind the scenes of that one, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean,
I mean, I don't. I think no one knows, but I think we all know that no one knows. Like it's all a big mess. Um, Now that one, I don't know. Do you think that hurt the movie's overall perception and performance? All the craziness behind the scenes.
Well, I think the craziness behind the scenes, like it wasn't any one person's fault. I think that I mean, Zack Snyder's daughter passed away, so I mean, him having to step down and go and deal with that, life happens.
Well, I meant more
But
like the Joss Whedon,
but then
Joss
oh
Whedon
but
and
yeah,
what's his name, Cyborg. Who's the guy who played Cyborg?
I have no idea.
The guy who played Cyborg and Joss Whedon's kind of beef forever, and about how Joss Whedon's a sexist
Oh,
monster.
okay.
Which
News to me.
yeah, there's the whole beef going on. It's a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I try not to like look too heavily at like celebrity beef and like disputes or whatnot, but I have found that there's movies where when it's like the co-stars can't get along or there's one star who's having back and forth with the director, then the movie comes out bad. I mean, when everybody can't just like be on the same page behind the scenes, we've seen it happen with Blade Trinity, Fate of the Furious.
There's another one. Yep.
I was actually just watching it the other night.
It's not a bad movie though.
It was on IFC. I don't know if you guys get that in Canada.
No, I don't. We might. I don't know. It's like
Yeah, and then the Incredible Hulk. Yeah, so I mean, so yeah, it's like whenever you have like an Incredible Hulk, you have like Edward Norton. He pretty much put together his own script. He wanted to make his own movie. He wanted to like be star in the film and be the executive producer. And Marvel was like, no, you're the insomniac from Fight Club. Goodbye. And I mean, Fate of the Furious, you had these two, highly paid, bald men acting like little boys.
Vin Diesel and
the Rock and Vin Diesel, and they were all showing up. Vin Diesel was showing up late to set. He was being unprofessional, and he was too chicken shit to do anything about it, and blah blah blah. And then Tyrese injected himself into the mix, saying how The Rock is being selfish by doing his own spin-off and blah, blah, blah. And then The Rock clapped back saying, Tyrese, your music is shitty. And then in the end, we got F9.
in that one too, which is...
Oh, right. Yeah.
I never forget about that with all the other stuff going on, but that also happened.
Yeah, and then the stuntman died on set.
So,
yeah, I mean, all in all, I think that Fate of the Furious is a movie that was good for what it was. It would have been better if everybody could just like
get along,
grow up. But
well, so it's interesting
that and
because the reason I brought up Justice League, I brought up the Death on the Nile and Ant-Man and the Lost Quantumania. Well, Ant-Man and the Lost Quantumania is a little bit of a special case, but Death on the Nile, obviously, Armie Hammer's in that movie. He eats people. In case you didn't know.
No,
Well, I'm saying the audience.
I remember hearing about Armie Hammer through TMZ way back in like maybe 2010 when the controversy had started. So I only know it. I only know it through like the satire. Like it was like some segment that TMZ had was like Armie Hammer, the guy with the coolest name in the world, and then there was then they spoofed about it on Saturday Night Live. There's an SNL sketch where I guess it was like a game show, and then it was like respond to this text message, and then they had one of the cast members playing Armie Hammer. It was like respond to this text message from a girl who like I don't know like DMs you. He's like, can I please meet up with you and drink your bone marrow or something like that. Like,
well, so it's funny, right? Because the Armie.
Hey, y'all better not take that out of context.
Yeah, so the Armie. Okay. I'm gonna clip that for sure. Don't worry.
Well, you better not.
I'm gonna clip it. I'll tag you on it too. Don't worry.
Better not, Khalil.
So Armie Hammer was in that one. And obviously, with that, the more direct effect of that was they were very scared to show the main character of the movie in the movie. Like they were very they had to, like in all the trailers they were very scared to like show him because he ate people and we now knew he ate people. And so I think that was kind of another one where there was a bunch of or behind the scenes stuff which actually affected the marketing of the movie. Now a smaller example is Solo, right? Solo. Disney,
Hmm.
and now I don't know if people
No.
remember this, but Disney was very, very scared about recasting Han Solo with a guy who actually turned out to be pretty good
Right.
at Han Soloing, but underrated as hell, by the
Was
way.
he in Cocaine Bear?
Yeah, he was. He was.
Oh, yeah. That's where I recognize him
Yeah,
from.
he's
Yeah.
was in Cocaine Bear. So he was actually. So what they would do is a lot of the trailers, at least at the beginning, they basically wouldn't show him at all because they were scared, right, of like backlash and stuff. So I think, at least in my view, and so kind of going over to the new stuff as well, right? Is like Shazam, obviously very new stuff. Zachary Levi is now apparently a bad person. As of
No, no. What'd he do?
last week, or a few weeks ago, he had a bunch of those comments about vaccines. Um,
Oh,
and Aquaman, obviously, you've got Amber Heard, who has her own problems, and the Flash, you
yes.
have Ezra Miller, who might be like trying to chase Army Hammer for the creepiest guy in a movie.
They're chasing Army Hammer.
Ezra Miller is chasing Army Hammer, pun intended, by the way, because Flash chasing.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
I know.
So
I made sure to say they this time.
yeah. So Ezra Miller is. So now, do you think that'll hurt any of their movies?
You know, well, again, and this is why I like stay off of Twitter because I think they have a lot of distractions out there. I think, I think in the world of post COVID, I feel like now I'm personally like I'm not personally an anti-vaxxer. I got the vaccine.
Good.
We were required to get vaccinated here on campus. I think that everybody should have the right to choose. Like nobody should be forced to put anything into your body. So like I stand by guys like Zachary Levi and even
No, he wasn't saying I don't want to be
and
forced to do it.
even
He's saying
Letitia
no.
Wright.
What he was doing was he was saying I don't think it's a safe vaccine. That's what he was saying.
Oh well. Yeah. I think that everyone should be given the full information. I think you should make an informed decision. And then if you don't think that a certain vaccine, whether it's COVID-19 or even the flu vaccine, if you don't think that that vaccine is safe, you should have the option to say no. You should not be forced to
Well, I think the problem is when
be
you're publicizing
vaccinated.
like conspiratorial lies, and
Yeah,
I mean, and again, it's not about kind of the
I
more
guess.
like it's not like this is not about the actual comments he made, but it's more about people see that, and I think at least the prevailing opinion is the vaccine is not dangerous, and if you say it is, and you're like you have a platform and you're lying about it like that, you're actually
True.
that's not great. So I think kind of my question is more around. Do you think those kind of things will actually hurt? Will say, "Hey, maybe I don't want to watch this movie because this guy said some stuff I don't like," or Ezra Miller, I
You know,
stalk people and try to kill them or whatever he does, and I don't even know what he's doing, but he's doing some bad stuff. And obviously, Amber Heard had one of the most publicized trials in
yeah, I
recent
mean
history since probably OJ.
the oh right yeah. I mean the whole Amber Heard trial. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that Johnny Depp was this famous. I'm like, this is actual news. I'm like, the guy from
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Willy Wonka,
Pirates of the
like the
Caribbean.
guy from Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, oh, that guy. He's on trial. Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, I remember when he showed up at Comic-Con, I think 2018 as Grindelwald. To promote um, Fantastic Beasts: Crimes of Grindelwald. Apparently, Amber Heard was also at Comic Con on the set of Aquaman, the panel for Aquaman. So like that same day, they were both I think at Hall H that same day. So the fact that Amber Heard had just left Hall H, like had just left that panel, and then all of a sudden Johnny Depp shows up as Grindelwald. It was met with like half cheers and half boos.
Was funny
But
because
I
Harry
never.
Potter would have been a perfect one, or like the Fantastic Beasts series, whatever movie they're on now, would have been perfect because J.K. Rowling also is a key part of off-screen controversy affecting movies.
I think that, and yeah, and you can actually quote me on this.
Okay.
You got to be able to separate the artist from their art. All right. I personally couldn't care less about what a certain celebrity's opinions are on whether if it's got to do with politics or with a vaccine. It's like that is your choice, that is your opinion. I'm not
You can
going
disagree with it, but
to.
it's still
Yeah, it's like I can disagree with it, but I'm not gonna like boycott your film. Like I still want to be entertained. Okay, it's like, okay, so what if Will Smith slaps Chris Rock? I still want to watch Independence Day. Okay, like,
Yeah, well, this
okay,
is funny, right?
it's
Because like I think the bigger thing though is not
you
necessarily
know,
because we're very different than the average person in the sense that we like movies a lot,
right,
right? But I
right,
think the average person, right? Like I think typically you only go to like one movie every few months, right? Like it's very rare to go watch a movie for
yes,
like
yeah,
again the average person. We are weird nerds, and this is what we choose to do with our time. Um, a
yeah,
lot of people though, they don't. They go, you know, once every few months if you have like a family, you sometimes go over like over a school holiday or whatever, right? And so if you're deciding, okay, there's all these great movies, do you think that'll end up being a part of like maybe the factors in like, oh, I didn't like what he said, maybe instead of going to Shazam, I'm gonna go to Creed, right, as my one movie for the next like month or whatever, right? Like, do you think that'll be a
but
thing
then
that people kind of use to decide like I don't want to watch Flash because Guardians comes out and I want to watch that, and Ezra Miller's not in that.
I mean, I want to say that that's not where we're headed, but I think that might be where some folks are headed. But I also realize that like Zachary Levi, he's still getting paid. Somebody's going to see his movie, and like they don't care about each and every single one of their like viewers' opinion. It's like it's like
Yeah,
these celebrities, these studios, they're gonna get their money regardless. It's like they don't care if like oh, so this celebrity endorsed so and so for president or governor or whatever.
right.
Therefore, I'm not going to watch their movie. I'm going to go and like go online and say, oh, we need to boycott this such and such artist or such and such actor.
Yeah,
I just think
but a
that's
boycott
been
is
the
like a
downside.
necessary kind of trimming of movies you watch. Like it's like another way to factor it down, which is I don't know. It's an interesting thing I think to think about, especially because you look at Justice League, which didn't do great. Death and Now kind of just disappeared, and obviously Ant-Man and the Wasp, which Evangeline Lilly obviously had her own controversy with the vaccine, but that has kind of
Right.
and I think that one probably was the least related to like off-screen stuff. The reason that one fell, and did kind of the nosedive
Right.
it did, but it's just an interesting thing to kind of talk about now. A little segment we do here.
And
This is the second
yeah, I
one.
mean,
Oh yeah, go.
I think the downside of us having like access to social media and access to like Instagram and TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter is like it's given pretty much godlike powers to everyone. It's given everyone the ability to automatically say whatever they want and say whatever they feel like, and automatically not only have an opinion, but to automatically be right about it and not allow for like open dialogue and open conversation, and not allow people to just agree to disagree and like
Yeah.
move on. I feel like everybody's got to be so set in their ways, and it's my way or the highway. And I just feel like common ground, like where we're headed as a society, maybe like common ground just won't be a thing anymore. It's always
Right.
going to be, it's like, oh, this person said one thing that I don't agree with 30 years ago. I'm taking down all these posters. I'm like burning all these DVDs. We're protesting.
Yeah.
You know,
One thing
it's
interesting
just
to see
like,
if these movies, these three, just coincidentally DC movies with controversial stars, end up getting end up having effects on that. Now we have a little segment here, which
Pig? You think we pig?
That'll pass. Pass.
now they can hear us and see us again. So that intro for the What We Watched segment, which is called Pick or Skip, where we basically take 2 or 3 movies we watched, which I know some of the movies you're going to talk about, but and you basically just telling people like, hey, I like this, you should go watch it, or I hated this, do not watch this no matter what. So we'll go back and forth. So do you want to go first? And for the Creed one, just kind of avoid the spoilers, just for
of course, yeah.
it's a new movie. Old movies you can spoil. New movies, try to avoid
All
them.
right, all right.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So we're doing just movies
Movies, TV,
for now.
any media.
All right, all right. I guess starting with movies, a couple of movies that I've seen
Just go one by
recently.
one and we'll
I guess
switch
I'll.
back and forth.
All right. I'm going to kind of go in order of which movie I saw when I saw it. Starting with Knock at the Cabin. Definitely check this movie out. It's the first M. Night Shyamalan film that I've seen in theaters, and honestly, I give it probably like a 6.5 out of 10. It's a nice kind of like apocalypse suspense thriller. It's pretty much a long episode of What Would You Do? And yeah, I mean, it's literally like, what would you do? And I guess it kind of begs the question: how much are all of us really willing to sacrifice for the greater good? It's like when, like, if you like when you get that knock at the cabin, when you get that knock at the door, it says, like, you need to sacrifice a family member in order to save humanity. How much are we really willing to sacrifice for
Okay,
salvation?
so I have a question for you. So I don't know if you, when you were younger, you had these, but like, I don't know if you remember those books. They're like the choose your own adventure books, and you could like flip to the page you wanted to, like, the way you wanted to kind of do your story. It's like turn to page 3 if you choose this, or turn to page 42 if you choose this. I don't know if you had any of those, or you did any of those when you were a kid. But I had a bunch of them, and it was so much fun. And I think that's kind of like, I haven't seen Knock at the Cabin. I want to watch it, but I don't want to pay to watch it. So, like, I don't want to pay to watch it.
It was one of my
Um,
it was one of my picks for a fantasy movie league.
I know that too. Yeah. I mean, that would
Bonus
be
pick.
nearly as great as I think everyone hoped it would. But
Well,
so, like, is that kind of what it is? Like that kind of choose your own adventure story type thing, but like more of a narrative than those.
yeah, it's a bit more of a narrative. I mean, the movie pretty much the entire movie takes place literally like at a cabin.
Right.
Uh, yeah, I mean, it's a typical M. Night Shyamalan movie. I guess it's
So it's a
all,
crazy twist at the end.
yeah. I mean, this like all build up to like minimal payoff in the end.
So M Night Shyamalan, but like not peak M Night Shyamalan, more like later on, like kind of like
not
Glass. Or
Unbreakable
Split. Split's a legendary
or
movie.
or Split,
Glass a little bit
but
worse. But yeah.
but not the last Airbender either.
We don't talk about that. No. Okay. So that's a definite pick.
That's actually one of the shows I'm currently rewatching for the third time.
Hey, I love that show so much. I'm so hyped for the live action, the Netflix live action one. Hey, there's a Canadian in that, so I gotta be excited for it. So my first one, we're actually going back to 2010.
Dang.
Yeah, I know. We're flying back in time to Wild
Flying back in
Things
time.
Foursome. Don't ask why I watched this. It was on TV, and I was like, hey, I see the other 3 movies in this series because it was on TV. Let me watch or I think this is the 4th one. These movies.
What's it called?
So it's called
again?
Wild Things Foursome. It's the 4th movie in that series, in the Wild Things series. The first one was actually relatively popular. Then the next 3 were direct-to-video kind of garbage movies. So basically, the idea around this movie and this whole series is, it's actually very similar to Knock at the Cabin in a sense, but where it's like, or like M. Night Shyamalan movie in general, I guess, where because it's basically, it's like a scenario happens, typically doing with like, young people losing a bunch of money, or not be like, if someone dies for like someone wants to get inheritance, right? And it's basically this whole like crazy story about how like all these different random twists which result in this person getting what they want, right? So like, a father, like someone's father will die, right? And then the whole story we kind of investigate, like the police trying to investigate that, and like it's basically a whole story of like how, at the end the father's not actually dead, but he needed to die to get all the money back. But it's like everyone thought it's basically the most stupid like stuff ever. But it's, I don't know, they're just so funny to watch, especially because like there's a midnight kind of movie you just turn on and they're on midnight, and you like, you just watch them and you're like, this is, why am I so excited? Like, this is how I know I'm tired, because I'm enjoying this. And there's like a lot of sex in all of them. But yeah, that I mean, if you like stupid movies and you want to watch something at midnight, that's a definite like late night, like I want to watch something stupid kind of pick. But yeah, next for you.
So kind of like the Man Thing movie.
Man Thing movie. Wait. Oh my god.
There was a Man Thing. There was a Man Thing movie.
I just completely forgot
yeah,
that thing
yeah,
existed.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, so.
Neither have I. But I hear it's a good like 3 a.m. movie.
Cool, so that's what I watch tonight at 3 a.m. Okay, what's your next one?
Oh God. Well, my next one, I guess I'll do TV show
Ooh.
that I haven't ever actually talked about, and I plan to talk about on CNN this Thursday.
Not the new
Um,
CNN, the other new CNN. That branding is getting a little nasty, but you know.
man, okay. All right. The third season of Wu-Tang and American Saga on Hulu. And yeah, I mean, it's a historical drama of sorts. I mean, it chronicles pretty much the journey of the hip hop group, the Wu-Tang Clan. RZA, Jizza, Old Dirty Bastard, God rest his soul, Method Man, Inspector Deck, Ghostface Killer. Anyone else I forgot? It's like 30 of those dudes. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting story about how they all kind of started out on the streets, started out growing up in Staten Island, and they were all, selling drugs and, committing crimes. They kind of turned their lives around from negative to positive. They got into the rap game. A few of them had done a few bids in prison, and yeah, then they created pretty much the brand that we all know and love today. And drawing inspiration from karate films. I did taekwondo as a kid, so
I did karate for like 2 years and then I quit because it was too hard.
I did it for 9 years. But yeah, I mean, it's just such an all around great show. Definitely a Black History Month pick. You have Wu-Tang and American Saga on Hulu. While you're at it, also check out 1619 Project on Hulu. It's another great show. I know Black History Month is over technically, but every month is Black History Month. But yeah, definitely check out Wu-Tang and American Saga. Check out 1619 Project. Check out now when this episode airs, the second episode might already be out when you're watching
Wait, you're talking
/ listening to
Bandit?
this episode. Yes,
Wait, no, leave that
yes.
for next one. Leave
Man,
that for next one.
okay.
I actually haven't seen it yet, but
All right.
because of assignments and stuff. Anyways, so my next
Again,
pick is
CNN this Thursday.
my next pick is gonna be, and there's so many movies I've actually watched to choose from, but I'm gonna go with the show. Okay, and you inspired me with your Black History Month pick. So I'm gonna go with Grownish, which I just started watching. I just finished Blackish, and the Blackish is more of a rewatch, like a semi rewatch, because I had seen like on and off episodes, but I just did a whole rewatch of that. And then I was like, but I had never watched Grownish, so I started watching it. It's on Disney Plus, and it does Euphoria better than Euphoria does Euphoria. It's kind of insane. I absolutely love this show. Like, it's so much. Also, the fact that Tinkerbell, Ariel are both in the show is kind of funny. Like, both.
Haley and Chloe.
No, whoever the star is Tinkerbell in that new Peter Pan and Wendy movie. The actual star of the show.
There's a new
The one that literally just had a trailer come out. Yeah.
Oh, Yara Shahidi?
Yes, that's her. Yeah, she's Tinkerbell in the new Peter Pan movie, and obviously I think I don't remember which one of the sisters, but one of the sisters is Ariel. So that was kind of funny. But they're both awesome, and all of them are awesome. That entire show is awesome. I love it. I'm on season 4. But yeah, I mean, I recommend that absolutely. Like, it's its own thing, and it's awesome. And it is like, if you like Euphoria, you'll love this one because it does Euphoria, but like without all the sex and all the stupid extra stuff. So it's pretty good. It even does the drug stuff better than Euphoria.
Oh,
because it doesn't glamorize drugs like some movies.
True, yeah.
Well, it does at the beginning, and then it doesn't. Anyways, what's your next pick?
My next pick. Let's see. Well, that's it for TV shows so far. Next pick, I will do.
You wanted to use.
When are we gonna save that for the next?
No, this segment. I meant next pick. Like, let me.
Okay, yeah. Mandalorian season 3. It's a crazy thing. I think Mandalorian season 2 came out 2 years ago. I think. So much has happened in the story of Mandalore. Y'all see the shirt I'm wearing? All right, Book of Boba Fett. I liked the Book of Boba Fett. Okay, a lot of I heard it got a lot of reviews. I heard people said it was too slow in the beginning. There was too much
I don't like the
exposition,
back to
too
tank.
much back and forth. I like the back to tank scenes as well. I enjoyed. We gotta find out like, okay, big ups to Patton Oswalt. All right, um, for his filibuster way back in 2013. Doing his thing on Parks and Recreation, saying, start of Star Wars Episode 7. Boba Fett's hand reaches out of the Sarlacc pit. He spoke it into existence. Big ups to our man Patton Oswalt. Got mad love for MODOK, and
Not anymore. Not Modoc
also,
anymore.
also one of the Night Stalkers in Blade Trinity, Agent Kager, Koenig, whoever he played on Agents of Shield, and you know, but yeah, I liked the back to tank scenes, and also the crossover episode of the Mandalorian and sort of the dark saber, and like and this whole thing of. It's funny. I was listening to Star Wars earlier. Shout out to
Oh yeah,
Michael
shout out
on
to
Star
Might
Wars. Check him out.
might end up being on the podcast
Um,
at the next episode you hear because I still have an MIA co-host, so I'm just gonna go through guests.
okay, yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, just going through guests. That's
Yeah.
good. But yeah, I think Michael from Star Wars, you said how something about like how Mando has to go and bathe in this toxic planet, like after like the cleansing of Mandalore. It's like he's got to bathe in this like toxic waters in this planet to like kind of regain his honor or whatnot. So I mean, I'm interested to see where they go with this story, but now I really have to dig deep and just kind of binge through at some point Star Wars The Clone Wars. I have an on again, off again relationship with
Watch
this
it. It's
show.
awesome. It
Okay.
is the greatest thing ever.
Like I feel like every time I try watching the show, I always get caught up in something else. I have a tendency to show hop, and I kind of have a
Oh, I
tendency
do
to
that
kind of
too,
just
but not
like
for Clone Wars.
I have a tendency to like kind of avoid attachment and commitment in the TV show world, and
Ends.
kind of just hop from show to show. Like nothing really serious. I'm kind of just exploring and kind of swiping right and left, and it's like
Oh, so much
I'm
fun
been
clipping
very
memes.
hesitant, been very hesitant to actually commit to one show and like actually stick it out and see where it goes.
TikTok clips
So
are
yeah,
wild.
I
By the way, I'm just telling you now.
so yeah, I mean, I guess I'm pretty much saying that I have commitment issues with when it comes to shows. All right, but yeah, the Star Wars: The Clone Wars. I think I made it up to like season 3, and there's been a few episodes with Mandalore, and I know there's a lot to unpack with like the Death Watch and the House of Ren, and like the unification of Mandalore, and then like there were multiple civil wars, and then apparently I think like the House of Ren turned against Mandalore or something like that, or like the
It's a whole
Jedi
pumpkin, and even
they like
Rebels.
retook Mandalore in the final season of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, but then Order 66 happened, and then like the clone troopers became stormtroopers, and then
Yeah.
yeah,
So
like it's a
Star Wars Rebels also
whole.
something you have to watch them because that also kind of connects back to the Mandalore thing.
Oh no, I mean I saw a little bit of Rebels in real time.
Right.
I think I watched maybe like the first 2 seasons, and then I kind of stopped watching around season 3. It only aired for 4 seasons,
Unfortunately,
uh,
one of the greatest Star Wars shows since the
but
Clone Wars, and
yeah, and then we didn't get the final season of Clone Wars until after Rebels had ended.
yeah,
Because remember, Clone Wars was what was like the flagship series for Disney Plus. That and The Mandalorian. Um, but
definitely
yeah,
came out.
check out Mandalorian season 3. It's gonna be like the biggest season
I've
yet.
got mixed feelings on Mandalorian.
Um,
I only want Ahsoka right now. That's all I really want. I also have mixed feelings on Andor. I've got
Okay.
mixed feelings on a lot of things because it's Star Wars and I love it, and I obviously love everything. But I feel like I don't know. I feel like the Mandalorian's kind of gone downhill a little bit. Maybe it's Boba Fett tainted because I didn't love Boba Fett. But again, I still loved it because it was Star Wars. But as a show, I didn't love it. But I don't know. Maybe
I'll say, I will say that Book of Boba Fett was not as good as the Obi-Wan Kenobi
Obi-Wan was
series, which I think was just a mini series. I think it was a
It
one-off.
was
I don't
good.
think they're doing like a second
Well, no, they want
season,
to do a second season.
and which is fine. But
I agree with you on that. But
yeah,
fully. Obi-Wan was awesome.
even Andor was kind of like I had to like watch. I had to like actually. I tried watching it in real time, like with the new episode every week, and then I stopped and then decided I'm just gonna binge watch all the episodes, and that's pretty much what I did like
We did the same thing.
over the past like 2 weeks. Like I just like binge watched Book of Boba Fett. I think I finished it right before I went on spring break this past week. It was okay. It was okay.
I did the
I
same
liked
thing.
it.
But for Andor, I did the whole like first few episodes. Then I just waited to binge it at the end. And I'm a bad binger, but Andor was good enough. I could binge the 3 or 4 episodes I didn't have watched. Like I didn't watch. I gotta watch The Mandalorian probably tonight or tomorrow is the plan. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited about that one still because it's Star Wars. Now, the next movie I have, which I know you've seen, so maybe we can have a little chat about it, which is Cocaine Bear. Speaking of drug glamorizing, Cocaine Bear.
I was listening.
A review of Cocaine Bear, technically.
Right. Yeah. I've listened to your review of Cocaine Bear. I haven't actually talked about it. I was going to talk about it on CNN Thursday,
CNN, yeah.
and
I need to see the logo
hell
of
yeah.
the show because I'm like
I don't have a logo. Okay, you gotta understand. Like these logos, they cost money. It's just me. Okay,
I
I'm
made my
still in
own
school.
logo.
Like, I don't have the technological expertise of
Can I
you
make you a
and
logo?
Michael and
Can I make
Lee.
you a logo?
I mean,
Can I make you 3 logos and you choose and you can pick if you want to use them, you can use them.
oh yeah,
Okay,
sure.
cool.
Sure. There's like a logo service where I just like typed in like Cobb's Corner podcasts, and then it actually like made logos for me. But then there's one logo that I actually really liked. It was like a movie reel, and then underneath it said TV. It said TV, movies, pop culture. That's gonna be kind of like the tagline of the podcast. But it was like a movie reel, and then on the top it was like a C for like Cobb's Corner, but then I realized I had to like subscribe to
I can
the
make you logos
service.
for free. I'm good at Photoshop. So I'll make you some
Okay,
logos.
yeah.
And I'll send them to you. You can tell me what you think, okay? And you can use them if you want.
All right, yeah.
Because
But yes,
I like making graphics.
CNN Thursdays. I did not realize the acronym when I chose the name Current Nerd News. I was thinking of like a clever tagline. Like if you listen to my recent episodes, I'll usually say like, and now on to the Current Nerd News, and then I'll have like a transition into like Current Nerd News. So yeah, Current Nerd News, not the other CNN.
Yeah.
Current Nerd News, Thursday nights, 7:00. I was going to talk about Cocaine Bear actually.
So we'll talk about now.
Yeah, but early sneak peek. Cocaine Bear, I drafted it on my fantasy movie league.
You had a good
I
bunch of
saw it.
things.
Yeah, no, because you were clowning me for freaking not choosing like Marvel or whatnot. But yeah, Cocaine Bear, it's a movie. It's probably like the most just like slapstick, stupid, yet fun and enjoyable movie I've seen in a long time. It's a movie you can just like watch and just have fun with, and it's based on a true story. I was listening to the Two Black Nerds podcast, and they said how like probably like a bunch of the people who saw this movie were probably actual cocaine users, and they probably use real cocaine on set. I'm like, okay, well.
That's true, but
I don't think that they really glamorize drugs. I think for me, it's just the Eagle Scout in me. Again, you guys got to understand, like I was in Boy Scouts in middle school and high school, and I'm currently an Eagle Scout, which is the highest rank that's achievable in Boy Scouts here in the United States. And
I want to say
I took a bet. America. It's like you can't say that, all right? but pot kettle. But I took a merit badge called Wilderness Survival Merit Badge, and I think in that merit badge, oh my goodness, Khalil. I knew it was a mistake coming on the show.
Hey, you agree?
I didn't drag your name through the mud on Cobb's Corner,
No,
all right?
I did that to myself on Cobb's Corner.
You did that to yourself on Cobb's Corner, okay? You just no, I promise we did not have to do cocaine. Okay, and with all the controversy in the Boy Scouts of America, really, you gonna bring that up now? Like,
I wasn't aware of the cocaine.
Oh! I forgot you live in the alien world known as the Great White
Hey, I didn't do
North.
that one. Then you just call Canada the alien world. I mean, no, that was you. And that's getting clipped, by the way.
I'm just kidding. We love our quiet neighbors to the north, eh? But
Wow, racism.
yeah,
Insane. Or the country. I don't.
what am I talking about? Okay,
Cocaine
like
use.
yes, right. Wilderness Survival Merit Badge. They go over like what to do if you encounter a black bear. And where I live in Connecticut, we have black bears. We don't have grizzly bears. We have black bears, and it's like if it's black, fight back. If it's brown, lay down. If it's black, fight back. Black bears. I've never seen one up close in person. I have seen them like from a distance. We've had sightings in various parts of the state. Here in New England, but specifically Connecticut, which is where I live. And yeah, there's nowhere in the Boy Scout handbook or in the Wilderness Survival Merit Badge that they go over like, what do you do if the bear is hyped up on cocaine? Like that's not
So
that's not something that they ever really talked about.
So
Like,
my experience, so this movie, they kind of go back to the movie unless it's for bears to actually do cocaine, right? Like I think, so basically, my mom was like one day, like, oh hey, do you want to? There's this movie about a bear, like that, the cocaine bear thing, and I'm like, oh yeah, I heard of that, and she's like, I kind of want to go watch it because it seems like a dumb thing to watch. Do you want to come watch it with me? I'm like, sure. And so then we end up going to this movie, right? And now I'm typically not someone who loves dumb movies, like. That's not my thing. I like movies that are actually good for the most part. There are some exceptions to that, but I'm not really the most, and I don't love horror movies, right? So just because they're boring, I find them boring and predictable for the most part. So typically, this is not
don't
the
split
kind
up.
of movie I'd like. But hey, it's a movie called Cocaine Bear. Like, gotta watch it, So I go, I watch it, and I'm like, okay, let's see. That I love, like compared to expectations, I loved it. Mainly because I didn't expect anything from it, and it was like, okay, this is a stupid fun movie. Again, the stupid fun movies are good as long as they don't be too, as long as they're trying to be serious, right? Like Batman v Superman could have been a stupid fun movie, but it tried to be serious, and then it's like I think now the one glamorization thing I think was the kids doing the cocaine at the beginning.
Oh
That was
yeah,
my
right.
problem. Also, I don't know what cocaine, like the difference of eating cocaine versus snorting it. Like I've never done cocaine, so that's not in my expertise. I'm also not someone who does science, who understands like the effects of cocaine. So I don't know if even the bear ate it and the kids ate it. Like I don't know what the actual like change in effects is. Because again, I've never done cocaine, so I don't know. I could probably find someone who's done cocaine, but I've never done it, so.
Uh,
I don't know. So that's the only thing I think is like my biggest thing was like I don't know what that was, and I think they tried to like thread the needle of like it kind of seemed in their minds all the same, but I don't think it is. So I don't know.
yeah,
That was I mean
yeah. It's but I guess like you said, it's like you've never actually done cocaine, so it's one of those movies where it's like. Now I'm sure we probably had some crackheads watching this movie. Okay, the people who have actually like either done crack or cocaine, either did it back in the day or recently. You know who you are, and
it's okay.
I am not
It's
promoting
not okay.
the
It's illegal.
use of drug. It is illegal. Do not ever
Kids don't try this at home.
do any type of drugs. Okay, but it's almost like a catch-22 because it's like you don't know what the real effects are if you
You get
haven't
curious after
actually
this movie.
tried
You get curious after this
it.
movie.
it's like
You want to start experimenting with stuff, and it's like
it's like you get yeah, it's like you get curious, you want to like, but it's like you can't really experiment with it
well,
because it's illegal.
also it's like a
And
drug that's
if
gonna mess you up.
you have experienced it, I
Then it's illegal still.
hope that you can find a recovery network. There are resources out there.
Yes.
Hugs not drugs, guys. Okay, live drug free, live tobacco free.
Okay, so random
You know,
cocaine bear question.
even
Sorry, just gotta jump this in quickly. Would you be
marijuana bears next.
would you be angry if they basically made this like a Sharknado type franchise where you basically just have a ton of movies with just these like imagine like King Kong on cocaine.
Oh god,
Imagine
no.
Jaws on cocaine. Like these are the next two movies. I'm telling you, Jaws and King Kong
Oh,
on cocaine.
okay.
Like is that not something you'd watch?
Mm,
a giant monkey in a city on cocaine?
I guess it's something that I would check out, but again, it's like you said with shows like Euphoria and even the movie Cocaine Bear, it's like, are we glamorizing and sort of romanticizing
Cocaine.
the relationship, not just cocaine, but like drugs overall? Because, even in Euphoria, they're not just doing, cocaine, they're, there's
They
weed
did
and like
well, they did cocaine, which is
Molly
bad.
and other,
Yeah,
yeah, it's like, are we promoting that? Are we romanticizing it?
crystal meth, all that bad stuff.
You know, yeah, it's like a bit of a catch 22 because again, it's like Cocaine Bear. It's like, yeah, I mean, I hear a movie about it's like, okay, you got a bear on cocaine who's pretty much just killing everything in sight. It's like, yeah, okay, I'll definitely pay good money to see. I saw
I
that
would pay
movie
big
on a
money, I'll pay big
Thursday. I saw it that Thursday. I think it came out. Was it February 24th? I think I saw it the 23rd. Yeah, I saw it. I saw it that Thursday, and I have no regrets. I love the movie. It's not one of the greatest movies of 2023 by any
Oh, it
metric.
is mine right now.
It is a comedy film. Okay, it is not meant to be taken seriously,
But that doesn't mean it's
and I think
bad.
this is
That means it's better.
right. It's not a bad film. I'm just worried that folks are going to kind of take this film out of context.
But then you could argue
And
Babylon had orgies. Are people going to go try orgies now that the Babylon's out? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, right.
like you know what I mean? Like, I think at the same time, like as much as
Yeah.
it's catchy too, it's also like, well, what about other stuff that's bad in other movies, right? Like, it doesn't mean people are going to go try them.
True.
I think the problem is when you because like Babylon makes orgies look fun. Are people going to go and try orgies now?
But that's also why Babylon and Cocaine Bear are R-rated films.
Well, I don't think our ratings actually mean anything because parents half time will take
Right.
their kids to things without knowing what people watch kids watch Deadpool. I mean, it is what it is.
I saw Deadpool when I was 15. I saw Inglourious Bastards when I was like also 15,
Is
16.
R-rated? I thought it was 14.
Yeah. All of Tarantino's films are R-rated, pretty sure.
So
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was the first R-rated film I saw in theaters on my own. So.
I think the ratings are different here, so I don't even think it was the same here because I know I watched obviously Once Upon a Time, but I don't think it was R-rated because I got in no problem when I watched it. I watched that on my own
18.
too, actually. It was one of the first movies I actually ended up watching on my own because I don't know, no one wanted to watch it. Have you seen Van Wilder, by the way?
Van Wilder? No, I have
Oh
not.
my god, it's awesome.
That film, that sounds familiar. I've
It's
heard
Ryan
it
Reynolds.
somewhere. It's Ryan Reynolds. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's probably
Peak
why.
comedy. I'm just gonna throw that one out there. Do you have anything else you want to mention as things you've seen? Before.
Oh, as things I've seen.
Big recently that you want to not recommend.
Recently, yeah, I recommend a cult classic
Ooh, love
from the
this.
Wayans brothers, White Chicks. I finally sat through White Chicks for the first time. Actually watched it from beginning to end, and I might do an audio commentary of that movie. And yeah, I mean, it's just one of those movies that's just really, really just stupid, and it's funny, and the jokes, they hold up today. I think, yes, there are some body image issues.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Scene, there's the scene I'm
Yeah.
talking about. Okay,
Yeah.
like if I do that audio commentary, you guys might not hear from me for a while.
Okay.
I might have to go and disappear for a minute. Okay. There's that one scene where I think they're singing 1,000 miles. They're driving in the car. They're singing 1,000 miles, and then turn on some rap song, and then the Wayans brothers dressed up as the white girls. They actually
So
actually say nigga, and
you're
I just said that on your
You're allowed to
podcast.
say it. It's fine. Yes, you. I can't say it, but you can say it. That's what it works.
Yep, and then like one of the friends turns out, it's like, I can't believe you just said the N-word. Now she said the N-word. Like, so what? No, nobody's around. And then next thing you know, they're all saying it in the song. I'm like, oh man. And I'm wondering it's like that God of War meme. It's like, don't you know there are consequences to saying the N-word?
Tarantino doesn't
How
know
do
that.
you know? Hey. you will leave that
Oh no,
man's
he's a legend.
name
No,
out
yeah.
of your fucking mouth. Okay. But
Wow, some Will Smith references here. Oh damn.
do you see a sign in front of my house that says "Dead Nigger Storage"?
Will Smith can
God,
say
now I
the
can't.
word.
I can't. I can't stop saying it.
Here's what's funny.
Yeah.
So, I just watched a movie called Harvard Man. It's a movie about
Harvard
a guy
Man.
who basically does LSD. There's a whole bunch of other stuff, but like the big thing is like there's like half the movie where all the scenes are filmed from a guy's perspective who has done LSD and like a ton of LSD, and like where he can hear the voices and all that stuff that apparently happens. Again, I've never done LSD, so I don't know, maybe some more experience with that than I do. But
Right. And well, I guess I've also wondered, like I'll just say watch certain movies and
wondered how accurate they actually are because you don't.
no, and I'm thinking like this is what I imagine acid looks like. Like the first Doctor Strange film, that's what I imagine like acid is like.
I imagine acid is trolls.
And then I imagine freaking LSD is probably like a mixture of Thor: Love and Thunder and Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, I love him. I mean,
That's
I
what I
think
meant.
trolls. I think actually the director or the writers actually might have been on acid when they wrote that, so that's why I think that's probably a
Probably,
definition
yeah.
of acid. But yeah, that was a movie. It was really bad though, so I don't think anyone should watch it. But like, unless you want to see like what a movie's perspective on LSD is like, I guess. Just some weird like other subplot thrown in there. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, could you imagine like actually watching Doctor Strange while you're high though? Like,
I don't do drugs. This is an issue here. I did drugs. I like
don't.
So
Feel.
But and I don't know. Have you seen Cruel Intentions?
Cool Intentions. I've heard of it.
It's Reese
I've
Witherspoon.
heard of the movie.
And oh my god, I can't remember her name right now. She was in like a whole bunch of things in her life. Sarah Gellar. That's her name.
Oh, so yeah, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Reese Witherspoon, Ryan Felipe.
So I just gotta point
John
out Reese
Patrick Thomas.
Witherspoon is a gem, and everything she does is amazing. So this movie, basically, I'm gonna tell my story of how I got to watch this movie. Okay, so I've been trying to find this movie forever. Okay, because I can't find it anywhere. It's just hard to find. So finally, I forgot I could use VPNs to watch things. So I went on the UK Netflix, downloaded it.
ExpressVPN.
Nah.
Surfshark.
Use Windscribe.
Surfshark.
Windscribe here. Windscribe better. So I went.
Surfshark.
So I put on the VPN, whatever, downloaded it on Amazon Prime, and then, turned off the VPN, whatever, watch it because I didn't want to waste my 10 gigs of whatever on the VPN by watching
10
it,
gigs.
right? So this movie, I finally watched this movie last night, and it was awesome. It was so stupid and awesome. Reese Witherspoon's just amazing in everything she does. Like, this is very election-y vibes, cause same kind of time period. In terms of with Reese Witherspoon performance. There's some creepy things in this movie, but overall, it's something I'd say you should watch because it's stupid and fun. But yeah. Now, do you have anything else to say before we move over to the last thing, which is box office?
Box office. Trying to think. I already talked about Knock at the Cabin, White Chicks. Just saw Creed 3 today. There is a movie that actually two movies, and Cleo about to piss you off with my second pick. Two movies, they're both on HBO Max. I saw the movie House Party. There's a new one that came out back in January. It's about a house party at LeBron James' house, and it doesn't compare to the original House Party. I'll say, the original House Party is a classic, and it had there's three House Party. The original House Party, it was House Party 2, House Party 3 with Kid and Play. Those movies are classics. This one, it's like, okay, similar story, different actors. It's set in the 2020s. It's okay. I mean, I guess they kind of made it their own while also kind of paying homage to the original. I'm glad I saw it in theaters. There were only two of us in the theater when I saw it. So we had like the whole theater to ourselves.
That's nice.
And my second pick, I was actually watching this movie before I
you want people to watch House Party with James, correct? You're actually recommending it, you're not warning against it.
No, I'm recommending it. Yes, check it out. It's on HBO Max. I also was watching the movie before I joined this podcast episode. I was watching Black Adam on HBO Max, and yeah, I mean, I saw Black Adam in theaters back in
So
October.
did I.
I think it was an okay-ish film.
Nope.
I think the thing that kind of won me over was I think it's a movie where again it's like you were saying, Khalil, like if you want to just watch a movie that's kind of just like
No, because it thinks it's good.
a stupid movie.
The problem is it thinks it's good.
I think for me it's like the comedy aspects of it
What comedy?
was the comedy, I guess, the sarcasm, and on top of that, like the spectacle. I think the problem with the film, well, maybe again, catch 22. I think the aesthetics, the spectacle, the graphics were on point, but that's all the movie really had going for it.
So it's like a better
I
looking
think,
version of Green Lantern, is what you're telling me.
kind of, yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. But again, I haven't seen Green Lantern, but I heard
You've
that
never
the
seen
movie was.
Ever?
I've heard nothing but bad things about it.
Well, yeah, it's a bad movie. Watch it though, because
Yeah, with Ryan Reynolds, I haven't actually
Okay.
sat through.
So you don't watch
I don't know.
Canadian legends in movies. Okay, I understand.
I don't know if like my mind has the bandwidth
You just watch
to
Black Adam for
withstand
fun. Your mind has the
such
bandwidth. Don't worry.
terrible like CGI and animated super suits. Like,
To be fair, and this is a hot take.
am I going to be able
but-
to like?
No, but this is a hot take. But Green Lantern, compared to some of the movies you get today, isn't actually that bad. Like,
Okay.
at the time, when you're looking at things that were, that this was like a very weird thing. I think today actually it's kind of sad, but like because of all the CGI, I don't think it actually looks nearly as bad as it did then. Because there's so much CGI, so much bad CGI now. Like,
Right. I mean, even I've heard. No, I haven't seen any of the Hellboy movies. Now that I think about it. But apparently I heard.
Hellboy. Hellboy's a literal legend.
Yeah, I know. I know. You see, Guillermo del Toro. He's a great director. I know he's got
Legend.
Pan's Labyrinth, Blade 2. Should have directed Blade Trinity, in my opinion. He would have killed it. But
They're doing another Hellboy, by the way.
I think, but yeah, I know they're like rebooting it for a third time, and like we never got Hellboy 3, and I heard that the Hellboy reboot from 2019 had a bunch of like questionable CGI as well. It's like had a bunch of like some of those fight scenes, like some scene where he's like fighting these like giants,
Wait, you're talking about the
and
original one,
it's
right?
like
Or the
no, this was the more recent one
Yeah,
from
no, that
4
was
years
awful.
ago.
The CGI is terrible.
Yeah, like the
Well,
CGI
it's
is terrible.
overdone,
So
right? Like
I
Ryan
mean,
Reynolds actually said this
yeah.
recently. Like Green Lantern suffered from too much time and too much money, and I think that's like a real problem with movies. It's like if you like every time you try to make one of these good movies, like you said, okay, we're gonna put more money into this, and we're gonna and I think that's what actually makes the Empire Strikes Back so remarkable, is because obviously A New Hope was made on basically no budget, right? Which is why obviously some of the effects are garbage, like in hindsight. But Empire Strikes Back was given significantly more of a budget because they made money, right? And it's kind of that's what I think makes it so good, is because it was given so much money, and yet it still didn't it still managed to be a really well done movie, and didn't seem like it felt like too much, right? Like something you tried too hard to be great and to be better than an amazing first movie, and and I think then studios like, we'll give you more money, whatever, and I think that hurts movies, right? Now Green Lantern's a little different because it wasn't a sequel; it was the start of the original DC universe before the Dark Knight was, and then the Man of Steel was, and now the next Superman movie is going to be. But I don't know. I think it just suffered from the thing Ryan Reynolds said, which is too much time, too much money, which sinks most potentially good movies, at least.
Yeah. I guess you want to. It's like that whole spectacle, the aesthetic. Like I think that's part of it, but that only goes but so far.
Oh yeah.
Like if you don't have like a solid story, and I think that definitely Black Adam fell into that trap of like not fleshing out the story. I'm not invested in like the characters enough. I'm not invested in like everyone's motivations, and What about like Intergang? Why is this the first time that we're hearing about like Intergang
iconic
or
Superman villain.
about like Kondak? It's like they're just kind of throwing a bunch of stuff at you. It's like, oh look, we got explosions and it's an IMAX and we got The Rock.
Did you know there's a draw for Marvel?
So I mean,
So now,
I'm actually a fan of The Rock. I just don't think that he should be in a superhero film.
I just think he was good in Central Intelligence and the first Jumanji, and that's it.
No.
Central Intelligence is the best movie by far. So now,
Central Intelligence.
yes, the legend movie. Now we're gonna move on to our last segment, the box office segment. We're gonna chat a little bit of the weekend box office, and then we're gonna
box office
there. So I'm just gonna play the intro for the box office, and then we'll continue.
Where did you get the money for all these?
Shocking.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
Oh, predictable.
That's a lot of numbers, brother.
Wow, graphs and charts.
Netflix. I watched it during COVID, and then I started watching Jessica Jones, and I just couldn't keep up with it. And now they're all on Disney Plus, so I'm like rewatching. But I'm gonna like do the whole like Defenders saga, even though that's like not canon. And now they've got Daredevil Born. Like I'm preparing myself for Daredevil Born Again, because I never made it past season 2.
Well, I watched all of Daredevil. I watched all of Iron Fist, and that's it. Because everything else sucked. So box office for the week. So now this time you're actually in the all new box office segment, which means there's actually a graph on the screen instead of just me talking about numbers. So what you see on the screen, again, you can't see this, but everyone watching this on YouTube can, which is there's a graph which shows the in millions, obviously, the box office for the weekend, and then in the green, if they were around last weekend, what their box office was last weekend, and so you can see the change in a nice bar graph. Because I'm a nerd, I think that's probably the right answer. So now, no predictions for today because I don't have because my co-host typically has the predictions and I don't have any of those things. So we're just gonna roll with the numbers. At number 5, we have Jesus Revolution. And these are all still technically estimated numbers because sometimes they move up a little bit with Sunday, but because we're recording this before the Sunday numbers are out, but they're pretty much the same. So Jesus Revolution with $8 million.
$8 million.
That's a pretty nice opening.
All right.
Yeah. At number,
nice opening.
It opened over Avatar, which had $3 million, which has been out forever. So I mean, I guess that's so impressive.
Avatar's still out.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I know it's crazy. And Puss in Boots is still thriving with 2.7 million at like 8. It was 5 last week. It's crazy.
I don't have kids, so
I watch Puss in Boots. I don't have kids.
that's I'm gonna continue to use the hell out of that card.
Did you ever watch Shrek?
I mean, Shrek's a classic. Okay, I mean, Shrek.
It's in the same universe.
The movie is literally as old as me. Like, okay, Shrek came out when I was 2 months old. And I mean, I've grown up with that movie. I've been able to watch it and rewatch it. The first one is for sure a classic. You can watch it, like it works as a kid, but then as you get older, you pick up on all the adult jokes, but then you also pick up on like the adult themes about like kind of that night. I think the first Shrek is definitely worthy of its Oscar win, very first film to win Best Animated Feature at the Oscars. Shrek 2 was nominated, but it lost to The Incredibles, which I agree with.
Anytime during that era, there's a Pixar film or a Disney film you're gonna lose. Now, obviously, that's a little bit different because Puss in Boots, I'd argue, is better than any Pixar film has been in years. So,
right. And it's also Shrek 5 coming out for some reason.
This is the testing ground for Shrek.
Right. I heard it's like the testing ground. I know.
So 4 was Demon Slayer. It's some anime thing. I'm very selective anime person. Like I've watched Attack on Titan and My Hero Academia. My Hero Academia is awesome.
I can never stick with an anime. I can always
But those two just worked with me. My Hero Academia is like about superheroes at a school. It's like Young Justice, so it's awesome.
Sky High.
No, stop it. Stop it. No. And my
Hey, you invited me on this podcast.
Attack on Titan is is more of a like, I don't know. It just was fun. I don't know. I feel like I'd get into more anime if I actually tried to watch it. It's just
Right. Yeah. There's too much content out there.
well, cause that's like, cause it's like someone was trying to get me to watch Attack on Titan forever, and I was like, okay, I'll try, and I loved it. It's like I think that's more of the thing is like getting me to the point where I actually try to watch it and stick with it for a few episodes, and then I'll love it because they're typically fun. Now, obviously, sometimes a little bit of me wants to watch the dubbed version, even though I typically watch the subtitle version.
Sub gang.
Because it feels more natural, I guess. I don't know.
Notice the outfit I'm wearing tonight?
No. Should I?
It's a kimono.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's
Damn.
It's from a company called Lock and Load. Look them up.
So yeah, Demon Slayer, which I don't know anything about, made 10 million. So that's pretty good.
Okay.
That was at number 4. Number 3 was Cocaine Bear, which made 11 million. Which
As it should.
A little drop from last week. I think it was like a 52% drop, which isn't actually that bad for a first to second week. I think it's only a second
That's okay.
week, right?
We'll take that.
Yeah, second week. So that's so 50-ish% drop. Yeah, when you get to 70% like Ant-Man did, then you've got a problem. But 50% drops are normal for first to second weeks. Then you had to number 2, Ant-Man and the Lost Quantumania, which in its third week dropped 61%, which isn't actually as crazy as the first week drop, as that movie only ended up making $12 million in its third week. That is a huge problem because it obviously made 31 million, which is a 70% drop from its opening weekend in week 2.
True.
So it ended up dropping, from that kind of dominant place of around that 50 million mark, which shouldn't have been it shouldn't have made 50 million in its second weekend, considering the fact that it made so much money in its first weekend. You should have dropped probably to like the 10%, 10 million higher-ish, that kind of range. But then obviously this drop now making it basically an average movie, like a thing about a Cocaine Bear in its second week now making as much as Ant-Man Quantumania in its third week, right? Like that's not good if you're trying to make a lot of money, which Marvel does like to do. And at number 1 with a dominant 58.6 million, Creed 3.
Yes.
So that is amazing for Creed. I mean, it obviously not even close on track to do the Top Gun thing and hit $1 billion, but it's definitely got the chance to make some substantial money, which is awesome. So it won't be Michael B. Jordan's highest grossing film ever. It might be Jonathan Majors' highest grossing film ever.
So far.
Well, until
Avengers. Yeah, he's still semi-new.
Well, I'm saying because Avengers obviously can make a ton of money, but I think right now, at least,
absolutely, yeah.
I think it can make more money than Ant-Man and the Wasp, is what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Which for considering I think Ant-Man and the Wasp was one of my picks, because I think I picked everything Marvel and everything Disney.
Yeah.
I don't know if my bias shows in that, but that was obviously the number 1 pick.
After you kept on nagging me to you just left out one of the most profitable franchises ever. I'm like,
I mean, you did. Also, I picked Mermaid, which is gonna make bank.
Yeah, but then I picked Knock at the Cabin and Cocaine Bear and Creed 3, and I mean,
November. You know what that means?
2 of my films are on the list of top 5.
Hey, we're still very early on here. All of my picks haven't even. Only one pick has come out right now. So
okay.
Little Mermaid's gonna make bank. The Marvels moved to November.
I'm still not.
The Marvels.
Oh right, the Marvels, which we haven't heard anything about. What is going on with Blue?
November.
What is going on with Blue Beetle or the Marvels? I haven't heard anything.
We saw the poster
What
from
is
the Marvels, which they gave us.
Right, we've seen the poster. But I'm saying where's the trailers at?
Well, that's November, so now they're not in a rush to give us trailers, right?
Okay, well, yeah, I guess.
May, they would have had to give us a trailer at the Super Bowl, which they didn't, so we knew it was going to get moved.
Right, Super Bowl, yeah.
Because if you don't promote your movie at the Super Bowl and it comes in the summer, you're stupid.
Yep. That's the reason I watched Super Bowl.
I watched it for football. Because
I watched for the trailers.
My adopted team was in it, which is the Chiefs.
I
yeah, anyways.
I gotta watch the football.
Yeah, you gotta watch it. I know.
I gotta actually
I
watch.
used to watch it for the trailers, but now we don't get the trailers. So now I watch it for football.
I forgot. I forgot you're in the Great White North. Moving on.
But yeah, that's the box office. Creed dominated, and Ant-Man sucks.
Pretty
Those
much.
are big. And Cocaine Bear is still making money.
Yes.
These are all incredible things. Now, less incredible for Ant-Man, which is literally like I don't think I've ever seen this before though. It's been quite remarkable. Like from Marvel, at least. I see this a lot from other companies. But Marvel doing something like this, where because the thing about the way the box office typically works, just so everyone has an understanding, is the movie, a lot of the Marvel movies and stuff like that really rely on the multiple time screenings to make money, right? Because they've got such a certain group of people, but they're relying on basically those super fans coming back multiple times. Right? That's how you make them. Because like you can't really make $1 billion if everyone watches your movie just once, right?
True.
Like if you want to get to that high end range, you need people to come back, right? And you have to make people want to come back, right? Obviously, Avatar, the cheat code to Avatar's success, besides fake scaring everyone off, was like they sold it as a movie that if you don't watch it in theaters, you're not getting the experience, right? So you might watch it 3 times in theaters because of the cool effects. Also, nothing was out for the next 3 months, so you basically just watch it as many times as you wanted, right? So I think that was the biggest thing, and I don't think Ant-Man is getting those rewatches. I don't know why. Maybe it's because Cocaine Bear, Creed have all been these, I guess, relatively sneaky hits, which means maybe people are less willing. Like I don't know. Maybe I just think the hype for Ant-Man has not been the same as Cocaine Bear, which I think had significantly more hype. I think when you have those kind of movies,
True.
it really hurts your mood. Like I think they were very lucky. I think Avatar was lucky that nothing came out that had that hype, right? Like everything came out sucked. Those things moved. So,
Well, that, and also, I mean, Avatar. I saw Avatar: The Way of Water on Christmas,
right.
so it's like
that's the
it's
thing.
coming
You also go on
out.
Christmas, which is huge.
Yeah, it's like you're coming out in like the end of the year, and
Well,
you
normally
got
that's a huge time for movies, but this time everyone's
Right.
scared of Avatar, so they all move their movies to kind of in the middle of to summer, right? Because that's why Christmas movie seasons suck, because there was one movie or 2 movies technically, right? So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Avatar sequels, which will come out eventually. Because I don't think Avatar is a good movie,
Right.
personally, but
Yeah, I mean, Avatar: The Way of Water, like it was a great movie, but it was like crazy expensive to make. Like I heard that like the studio pretty much like kind of bet the farm, so to speak. I mean, on Avatar: The Way of Water, and the reason why it took so long to make was because like even 5-6 years ago, like the technology that they used, it didn't exist back in 2009. So like James Cameron, he had to wait for the technology to improve, and like the IMAX, which I didn't see it in IMAX. I didn't really get that full experience. But well, I'm glad that you did. But like waiting for the technology to improve and then spending all this money making this movie, and then it's like at that point you put all this money into this.
it had to make money to make money.
It definitely had to make money because they had those sequels on deck. They had like 3, 4, and 5 on deck, but none of those films would get the green light if the movie did not make a profit at the box office. And I mean,
nearly break even, which it did with $2 billion.
right. I mean, yeah, I forget exactly what the reported budget was, but I know it made like, well, way past 900 million now. But I know like Black Panther: Wakanda Forever made over 800 million at the box office, and Avatar: Way of Water was over 900 million. I think Lee on Lights Camera Rant, like he had a poll, I think back in like October, November, of like which film do you think is going to make more money? And it was like Wakanda Forever or The Way of Water. I forget which one. I think I chose Wakanda Forever, and I was shocked. Honestly,
I think Black Panther kind of also suffered from this weird thing where like, now it's weird because I only watched I think 4 movies ever multiple times in theaters. Star Wars and Force Awakens, Return of the Last Jedi, and Rogue One, and whatever the last one was, the Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker. I only saw that. I only saw that movie once. I haven't seen it since.
So those movies, and then Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, are the only 5 movies I've ever seen in theaters twice. So that's that mainly just because circumstance, like if I go with other people and they want to go and I'll watch it, like because I won't pay to watch something twice just because I like to. because I don't find a value in that. Also, movies are very expensive, so when I want to watch so many things,
True,
why would I
true.
pay to go to see something twice? Like in my mind, that doesn't make any sense. Um,
You're right.
but I think
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I just think that
but
it suffered from that not rewatching, and also what Avatar just kind of killed the momentum of Black Panther. Um,
mm, yeah, yeah. I mean, in my case, I usually my default is going to the movies by myself. So like a movie's got to be really, really good for me to go to see it a second time. I saw Babylon in theaters twice.
how do you sit through that? I don't understand.
Well, I think it was because I had got up to use the bathroom the first time, and I saw. I think it was because I had like $100 in like movie gift card money from Christmas, so I just like spent. I've been spending that for like the whole month of like
That's
January and February. Um,
and there's nothing else.
but
To
yeah,
do.
I had to go and like see it a second time. How did I sit through it? I mean, I was just into it. I mean, like the first time and then the second time. Some movies maybe you need to watch it a second time, and then it's more clear. Like you can like understand it the second or third time. Movies like Get Out, I definitely needed to watch that movie a second time. I saw it in
I've only seen it
theaters,
once.
and then like I was still kind of confused at the end. Then I watched it the second time, and like I picked up on a lot of the symbolism and like
Yeah.
but
I don't have the focus to watch something twice. That's just never like something long twice. Sorry, it's never gonna happen. 3 hour movie, I'm never gonna watch
yeah.
twice unless it's Endgame, which I watched for an audio commentary technically a second time.
Oh right.
But that was a movie which if I rewatch it, I'll skip over a bunch of it because there's like a bunch of bad parts. Like apart from again the audio.
I did I actually, now that I think about it, I did see Endgame in theaters twice, but I only paid for it the first time. I saw it opening night. I got the very last seat in the theater, and the two guys next to me, they had the funniest commentary the whole movie. It's like when Iron Man snapped, and then I went. Another one bites the dust because Thanos and them, they all got dust. It's like, and another one's going, and another one's going. Thanos, we're gonna get you too. Another one
Everyone
bites the
real
dust.
funny is watching Endgame
Yeah.
audio commentary, which is not in the movie.
Endgame audio
format,
commentary,
which is nice.
right?
But yeah.
I gotta listen to you talk for 3 hours. Oh man.
We also get to watch Endgame. Well, I mean, I'm awesome, so I don't know why you wouldn't want to watch me talk for 3 hours. I don't know.
Much talk for 3 hours.
Now, on that note, because I realized that we were almost at the runtime of Avatar, or Babylon, we're actually right around the runtime of Infinity War.
Yeah.
A little bit under that because it's 2:45. Is
The Hobbit.
We're like at a 2.5 hour movie, which is like a normal movie. So you could have watched a movie, but instead you chose to listen to us or watch us.
Thank you for listening, everybody. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And now this might come out. I know I kind of posted the shows on hiatus for 2 weeks, but it might not actually be. This might come out on today. But like today when we're recording this, but like, I don't know. I got to see if everything maybe you'll see this at some point. I might have lied about the hiatus thing. Who knows? We'll find out. Either this now or next week. I don't know. But if you enjoyed this, check out obviously Cobb's Corner, which CNN is
CNN?
the real one.
CNN? Yeah.
And obviously you have to subscribe to us if you're watching on the podcast app, or listening on the podcast apps. Then you should check us out on YouTube because we have even more content there. On my final Oscar ballot, like my official final one, come out at some point this week. This week from when we're recording it, which is the week before the Oscars. As I attempt to be right 100% of the time, which has never happened before. But I think I've really got it this year. And more podcasts and other stuff which we're working on, which is why there's another going to be a huge big time announcement coming soon. And maybe two, depending on if I get the other one kind of sorted out. But definitely one announcement. We're working on some stuff, which is why there have been these weird hiatuses and breaks, is because I only have so much time in my day to work on this stuff. And so I kind of have to, budget my time based on all the different things I'm doing. So, you should keep watching because I got some fun stuff coming. And check out, obviously, all the friends we mentioned, actually, throughout the show.
Yes. Lights, Camera, Rant, Star
What
Wars,
else we mentioned? I'm sure we mentioned other people.
Nerd Dose.
Yeah, sure. Well, when they got to come on, or they got to invite me on first before I'm able to happily mention
Oh.
them. But yeah,
Yeah,
check all of them out.
I'm just gonna.
And obviously you can find obviously your Instagram handle is underneath you to your picture. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see all that. You also can see the social media for the Comic Boys account, and obviously my own personal social media is all there. So check all that stuff out. And again, thank you for watching. Go check out some of our other stuff. Go check out Cobb's stuff, which is all high level quality content. If you prefer that kind of stuff, if you want kind of random hot takes and pointless fast food content, then this is where you should be.
If you want the fast food, you come to Khalil, you come to Comic Boys. But us over here at the Cobb's Corner, we like to give you the full like five course meal. It's like you got to divide it up into like segments, and kind of you got your lobster, you got your steak, you get your coleslaw, mashed potatoes.
But
you get that chocolate cake for dessert.
Hey,
Shirley
if you want that full meal
you got
service,
Shirley Temples. I mean, they Cobb's Corner restaurant coming soon.
Hey, we got the branding right there. But yeah, again, check out Cobb's stuff. It's great. It's insightful, which is more like a Save It By stuff, which is not insightful because insight seems like a lot of work. But he really knows what he's talking about. He's very smart.
lot of work.
And so there's like there's a little level of difference there. But yeah, again, thank you for coming on. Thank you for I guess technically filling in as a co-host.
Had a lot of fun. I'd love to fill in for your co-host anytime. This was great. I mean, we talked for almost 3 hours. And I didn't feel bored at all. Not 1 second.
Make you feel not bored, and then I'm gonna make you feel angry when you start seeing the TikTok clips of all the cutting that I'm gonna do.
Man, Leo, you about to get me
a few gifs, whatever you want to call it.
Honestly, you about to get me canceled one of these days.
Oh, 100%. We're going for the cancellation. Oh, absolutely.
Now I really got to be careful about whose podcast I go on and who I bring onto my podcast, because I think this is probably you're probably like the third. I think you're the third podcast that I've been featured on. Like I was on Backlook Cinema, I was on Lights Camera Rant, and now you.
I think you're the podcast, right?
And you were the first guest on my podcast. So yeah, now I really need to be careful about like who I bring on to Cobb's Corner and whose podcast I go on to, because
well, I mean,
it's tough out
here. I'll go on because I basically cancel myself anytime I talk anyway, so it doesn't matter. I do it all on my own. I don't even need someone to do it for me. So yeah. Anyways, I don't want to keep people here longer than they probably are. Like I think I'm pretty sure half our audience has fallen asleep. Like because I think they listen to these while they're falling asleep. I've been told that that's what people do with podcasts. I do that too with podcasts. So like I'd be a hypocrite if I said that's like bad. So anyone who's still awake and listening, congratulations. You just wasted 2.5 hours of your life. So subscribe so you waste more time, because that is something I can guarantee you doing. Subscribe to Cobb's Corner if you want to not waste time of your life. So shout out. Again, thank you for coming on. Check him out. It's great. If you're watching this on YouTube, great. If you're not, you should really watch the show on YouTube, because there's a lot of cool graphics, and we're having even more graphics. We're really going for like that very flashy kind of podcast thing, because I don't know why. And we're gonna go for even more kind of like controversial, debatey topics. Basically, going for like that kind of like stupid, mindless sports show. That's the end goal eventually. Because those are dumb and don't provide any actual criticism. And I think we need to turn movies into this dumb Twitter type content which doesn't provide any real concept, and instead basically compares things. Like don't worry, we're gonna start arguing things because of the number of Oscars someone won. Don't worry, we're gonna do the most like stupid ways to like argue things. It's gonna be crazy, and I think you should subscribe so you can be a part of what is gonna be the Twitterization of podcasting. That is what we are. That is our new slogan, by the way. That's a sneak peek at the slogan. Twitterization of podcasting.
Yes, well, sneak peek at the Cobb's Corner slogan: TV, film, pop culture.
Twitterization of podcasting.
No. Okay, yes. Twitterization of podcasting.
So yeah, thanks again. I'm so bad at these outros because like I'll just talk and I'll just start rambling and then I'll just never end. So what I do normally is just cut myself off. So that's it.
Yes.
See you guys next time. Bye bye.
Peace.